Okay. Okay. So hello everyone. My name is Jana Ridvanová. I'm very glad to be able to welcome you here on behalf of the Initiative for Just Peace in the Middle East. I have to say I'm especially happy that after such a long time trying to open dialogue between these two camps, Palestinian, Israeli, and so on. We actually have today two distinguished guests coming from these opposite opinion camps, even though they're both Jewish. And that's also what I think is missing on the Czech mass media. Not only of course, Palestinian narrative, but also the fact that not all the Jewish people support unconditionally the acts of the State of Israel. So I will ask, we have a very distinguished guest from Great Britain, a member of the Labour Party, Jackie Walker. And she was also, till not long ago, vice chair of Momentum, which is an organization created in support of Jeremy Corbyn. And we have David and Bohbot, who's a new friend of ours.
Sure.
And who came up actually on our Facebook page, challenging us for a debate. So thank you for that.
Thank you for the opportunity. Thank you.
David is a former member of Special Forces.
Army.
I will let both speakers to introduce shortly themselves, and then I will have only 6 questions. Some of them joint, some of them for each, and then we will give you the floor because this is the most important thing that we get this dialogue going on. Okay, so first, can you just shortly introduce yourself?
Sure.
And shall I put the first question?
No, just let me introduce myself.
Okay.
But do you want me to stand up to introduce? Yeah, because it's also because by profession I'm a teacher and lecturer, and I find it really hard to sit down while I'm talking to people. Feels kind of rude, if you know what I mean. And I hope I don't speak too fast. If I do, if you want me to slow down, just wave your hand or something like that. So my name is Jackie Walker. I am both of Jewish and African descent. I'm also on the left wing of politics in Britain. I've been a comrade of Jeremy Corbyn for more than 10 years now. He's somebody who, my partner, for example, who's also Jewish, by the way, my partner has known for 40 or so years. So the leader of the opposition, that's what we call the Labour Party in the UK, because they are, they're not in the government. We've known Jeremy Corbyn for quite some time. I was actually born in America, but I came to Britain as an immigrant in 1959. So I did all my education and training in the UK. I then trained to be a teacher, and then I became an advisor teacher. I then became freelance and a writer. My specialism when I became a trainer was equal opportunities, in particular in what we would call majority white areas. So I trained both in a European setting as well as in the UK. But since I have retired, which is what I've done, since I've retired, it's the old thing, I've never been so busy as since I've retired. I've become a full-time political activist. I've always been, I have to tell you, a political activist. And I don't just mean that theoretically. What I mean is, I have been down there on the barricades when we've had fascists marching on the streets in Britain with, Hitler was right on their T-shirts. So I'm both a professionally an anti-racist and have been an advisor on anti-racism, but I'm also what I would call an activist as well.
Thank you.
Okay?
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
So my name is David Bohbot. I'm an Israeli, of course, Zionist, a proud one. My mother's side is from my mother's side we are 3 generations in Israel, and speak louder. From my mother's side, I'm a 3rd generation. My father was born in Morocco, and his family also was forced to leave, run away and leave everything behind them. And he came to Israel and met my mother, and I guess this is it. Thank you. And I'm not a political person. This is my first debate, but I thank you for. Oh no! Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you. Okay, so the first question goes to Jackie. Jackie, how does it work together, being Jewish, anti-Zionist, and supporting BDS?
I have to write it down because I'm getting to that age where I forget things. So, you see, I don't actually see any problem. I don't see any contradiction, because there's the most fantastic tradition in Judaism of respect for the other person and treating your neighbour in a way that you would want yourself to be treated. And many of the greatest humanitarians have been Jewish. And in fact, if you look right up onto the turn of the Second World War, most Jews were not Zionists. In fact, most Jews saw Zionism as a form of anti-Semitism. So certainly what happened in the UK was that people thought that if you were a Zionist, what you were saying was that there is no place for Jews in the country of their birth, which was in Britain, and that therefore this was an anti-Semitic sort of ideology. So I don't see a problem with that. And I also know, that with the tradition, for example, of the socialist Jews in the Bund, there is a real story. There's a real story of humanitarian and internationalist feeling. And by internationalism, what I mean, because that's what I am, is that although I'm not blind, I understand that I'm a person of colour, I understand I'm a woman, I understand that I'm Jewish, I understand that I'm of African descent, I understand all those things. But politically, I do not acknowledge the boundaries between people. In fact, I refuse to acknowledge them, because as far as I'm concerned, every single person has the same rights as any other people, and certainly the same right to be respected that I would claim for myself. And, it's not only me that would say this. I'm a member of 2 Jewish organisations in the UK. That's Jewish Voice for Justice and Jews for Justice for Palestinians. We see absolutely no contradiction at all in being Jewish and supporting the struggle that the Palestinians are entered into for their own emancipation. In fact, we see that as a duty that we have. What was the other one? Being Jewish. What was this one? BDS.
BDS.
Anti-Semitism and anti-Zionism. Was that it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Anti-Zionism, and you covered that in BDS, support of BDS.
Yeah, okay. So I actually took something off the BDS site that I'd like to read to you, if that's okay. And before I read it, I want to emphasise the fact that I also come from having experienced and been a supporter of the struggles for black people in apartheid South Africa. So when I was younger, I was also involved in that struggle. And in terms of the BDS, we need to remember that the BDS, the Boycott, Disinvestment and Sanctions Group, was actually formulated from Palestinian civil society as a peaceful way of challenging what is happening to them. And if you go on the site for BDS, you can see, here are the principles: ending the occupation and colonization of all Arab lands and dismantling the wall, recognizing the fundamental rights of Arab Palestinian citizens of Israel to full equality, respecting, protecting and promoting the rights of Palestinian refugees to return to their homes and properties as stipulated in UN Resolution 194. Now, when I look at those aims, what I see is nothing different from the aims of a general human rights charter. And what I would say is, why would we oppose a group that is a peaceful group looking for the human rights of people who are oppressed? So I'm not just a member, I'm proud to be a member of that grouping, just in the same way that I was proud to be a member of the African National Council, Congress, when it too was fighting for the liberation of African people. Okay?
That's good enough. Thank you. David?
Yes. The
Second question? The second question goes to you. You say you're a proud Zionist. So can you explain what are the goals of Zionism and why the state of Israel keeps accusing supporters of BDS of anti-Semitism?
Okay. First, should I stand also? First, about the goals of Zionism is to continue to do what we do best. We have, if I'm not mistaken, the biggest search and rescue teams in the world. We invent more than anybody else. Actually, there were 9 Nobel Prize winners, Israeli, just for chemistry. That's more than, excuse me for saying this, the most big countries in the world. These are the beautiful things. This is why I'm so proud of Zionism. What else we want to do? We want to continue to develop, to contribute to the world. We do wonderful things. If we could help such a giant as China when they had the problems with the plague in the fields, I mean, this is wonderful. I'm really happy that we do that. If we have probably biggest or second biggest company that produces medication, yes, you can call it a Zionist company, Teva. I don't care. This is wonderful. Knowing that 20% of Americans are using our medication, this is achievement. And this is even though we are in terrible war. We are in war with the Palestinians on a daily basis. But even though we are at war, us Zionists, we do wonderful things. We contribute to the world. We have more Nobel Prize winners than any other country in the world. We are the first in startup, in developments, in inventions. This is all true. I wish this it could be some changes that the Palestinians will start also contributing a little bit more. And I know it's very difficult for them. It's not easy for them in the situation they're at. What I'm saying, of course, is we were born to this situation. We didn't want it. We didn't ask for this. Since 1856, a lot of things changed when they started attacking us. First, for about more than 50 years, we were being hit and not retaliating, nothing. 0 Palestinians killed, only Jews. Then in 1909, we had a wonderful idea. Let's create the Shomer. The Shomer were the guards, our first guards. They were unarmed. And what it meant is just another person being butchered when we were attacked. 1920, we said, okay, this is it. We have to create the Haganah. And let's start fighting back. Still, if you look at the statistics, from 1920 until 1929, there were always more Jews killed than Arabs. You don't have to agree, but this is a statistic. 1929, we said, this is it. time for us to, if we are Jews and we really do believe that we can solve problems and develop, let's also develop in the field of the army. We changed our ideas and we said, let's not just protect ourselves with the hands, let's start using weapons. And then the change started. Unfortunately, what the Palestinians do not understand, the more they attack us, the more they hurt us, the more we develop, the more we invent, not just medications, not just the rewalk, enabling people to walk when they don't have a spine, not just the pill cam, the special camera that can detect everything in your body, or by the way, almost everything with computers is related either to Jews or to Israelis. So we do a lot, but we also started developing our army. And I'm pretty proud of it, because we had to understand that at the end of the day, our obligation is to take care of our people. Now what I have against the BDS also is, they don't, one last minute, please. They don't really, I don't, this was the other part of the question.
Yeah, it's just that you gave us more or less lecture on Israeli
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, BDS,
Zionism
anti-Semitism. I apologize about the BDS. I'm not saying they are bad people. Most of them are people that want to help. If I would come and I would see what is happening in Israel, and I would hear what BDS people are saying, I would be angry. I would say, those Jews, those Israelis, they are racist. They are terrible. But you forget two things. One, we are at war. You cannot compare us to any other country. This is unfair. If you want to say that Britain, that England is not racist, of course, but try to see what they have done. I chose this for you, since I knew that you are from England. Try to look at what they did in the Second World War. The bombing of Dresden, 25 to 100,000 people dead, when all of the dead in bombing in England through all the time when they were bombed was a little under 40,000. Okay, there's no proportion in defending. The only way you can know your defend is good is when it works. And the last thing, I don't see BDS helping in anything. The only thing it got is over 1,000 Palestinians fired. It might seem funny to some of you, but we want Palestinians to work. We want them to work. I will tell you something, my friend. اسمح لي خليني أحكي. شكرا. طبعا أحب أحكي عربي أنا من حيفا لا. Okay. The reason we want them to work, but we have to stop it whenever there's a bombing on something. Let me just. اسمح لي. شكرا. شكرا. The reason we want them to work is, if they will work, we will not have problems. And BDS only gets Palestinians fired. We are too strong economically. We cannot be hurt by the BDS. BDS mainly concentrates on companies in occupied territories. Who is working there? Who is getting fired? Of course, you have to understand, people that employ people are not nice. They want to use people sometimes. Yeah, we know about this too. And many times, they take Palestinians because they are cheaper labor. But it is. Don't, just if you want to, by the way, I'm already 50. I remember that from Gaza until 87, 60% of the Gazans were working where? In Israel. Check this. Why? Because we are very developing. We have.
You are occupying us?
We're not occupying you. I'm sorry, we're not. This was not your country before, and thank God it is not.
Wait. Yeah, I really did the best to give you all this time.
It's the truth.
Please,
It's the truth.
let's keep it civilized. Let's keep it civilized.
Tell me one Palestinian king, one Palestinian mayor, one Palestinian president.
David,
I'm
wait.
sorry, I will be quiet. I'm sorry, I apologize. Should I be quiet?
Let's keep this for the discussion, okay? You
Okay,
actually managed
so I'm
not to say
saying that
anything about...
the BDS is actually hurting Palestinians. It's not helping them. More and more Palestinians are fired. No Jews are fired. We are too strong economically. We have our ways. Finish? Sorry.
You
Thank you very
managed
much.
not to say a word about Zionism.
About Zionism?
No, I mean,
Zionism, I said actually, no?
no,
Let me do.
Zion-
Otherwise, it's just...
No, we said this is question for me, not for you.
but
I will not say anything to your question. Let's be fair, let's be friends.
But you've taken a lot. Listen,
I did took a lot of time.
you took
I
a
apologize.
huge
I will
amount
make it
of
short.
time.
I will make it short.
Come on. Let me say something, and then he can say something.
yeah, I will have to. I mean, this is
Okay.
I apologize.
Can I just say, it's lovely to get a whole list of how wonderful and what the wonderful products, the scientific achievements, the technological achievements of Israel. That is not about what Zionism is about. That's the first really important thing. And I always find it really interesting, although I have to say, I really applaud you for coming today because, because usually what happens is that, what I find, is that Zionists try to shut down conversation, and they do it by calling me and others anti-Semites. So it's great that you're... Thank you. I know you haven't, yeah. But, so it's great you're there. I mean, you know, let's face what Zionism is. This is what Zionism is. It's an ideology that believes that Jews, as Jews, should have a homeland for themselves. That's what Zionism is.
Yes.
Now, incidentally, Israel may do this or that and the other, but that's what Zionism is. And as somebody who's an internationalist and somebody who feels strongly about equal opportunities, I don't feel any one people have a right over any other. And I certainly do not believe, in the same way that I wouldn't believe in an Islamic state, or a Christian state, or a Buddhist state. I mean, we know what's happening with the Rohingya. I don't believe in a Jewish state. And I'll tell you why, specifically, I do not believe in a Jewish state. Because to maintain a Jewish state, or a Christian state, or any other state, which is not of its people, but is of a religion or of an ethnic type, you have to have rules and regulations that separate one people from another, that actually support the advancement of one people against another. And I find it just, I'm sorry, shocking. Shocking, because it's exactly what they used to say about black people. You know, that why aren't the Palestinians filling the universities? You know, why aren't they there making technology? I mean, that is an obscenity. I'm sorry, that is an obscenity. Particularly as these people, the Palestinians, have been under occupation more years than any other people ever before. They have been occupied for 50 years. They have been occupied for 50 years. I'm just going to read you something now, and I'm not going to tell you who it's from, and I want you to think who this is from, because I think this person is saying something very true. And he says, I'll give you a clue that it's a bloke. That means a man, sorry. Why should the Arabs make peace? If I was an Arab leader, I would never make terms with Israel. That's natural. We have taken their country. Sure, God promised it to us, but what does that matter to them? Our God is not their God. We come from Israel but 2,000 years ago, and what is that to them? There has been anti-Semitism, the Nazis, Hitler, Auschwitz, but was that their fault? They only see one thing. We have come here and stolen their country, and why should they accept that? That is actually Ben-Gurion speaking. That is one of the founders of the Israeli state speaking. And he is speaking the truth. Now, you can say, I won't be long, I won't be much long, because I'm not going to answer everything.
It's okay, she always tells me to be quite quickly. You can talk as long as you want.
I give you the floor, even though I was...
Start checking the time.
Now you can say, you know, you can say things like, Israel is an intrinsic part of Jewish identity. Well, if you look in Britain, 40% of Jews who go to synagogue, Because remember, this is the only way of tracking actually what Jews think, is the ones who go to synagogues. 40% now do not feel that Israel is part of their identity, and that figure is actually growing. But let's just say, you know, yeah, there are the prayers, you know, we all go back to Israel and whatever. But during those 2,000 years, it just happened that other people were living in that land. And when Zionism began to actually feed Jews through to settle in Israel, Jews at that point were a small minority in that land. Just look at the map now. Look at the map and see what has happened. There is no doubt what has happened, that the people, the mass of people who lived on that land for thousands of years have been cleared off of that land by a number of means. And don't start me off about the Haganah. I mean, you know, there's that famous picture, isn't it, of what they did to the British soldiers, you know, lynching them. So, you know, when we're thinking of the Haganah, let's not forget what the Haganah were actually doing.
It was not Haganah. It's okay.
That was the Stern gang. What's the other?
So do you want to...
Yes. I would like to react. Don't be angry. Please.
I'm not angry.
No, I was talking to them. Okay, yeah, I know. I said also
let's keep it here for now, then we will have the discussion with the audience, okay?
First of all...
I'm sorry. Other people were saying things when he was talking, and I don't want to say anything.
Nobody said anything.
Okay. Yes, they were saying in the back and you didn't tell them anything.
Oh,
it's okay, Larry. Everything's fine.
So I agree, nobody should say anything.
Okay, nobody...
That's a very nice suggestion.
Okay.
Thank you. Okay.
Let's keep it civilized.
Yes,
okay.
thank you. So, check my time.
Okay, 5 minutes.
About the fact that there is a Jewish state. There are 49 Muslim states, 3 Hindu. When you call it the Republic of Iran, or the Islamic Republic of Iran, or the Islamic Republic of Pakistan, or the Islamic Republic of Mauritius, or whatever, if there's in Saudi Arabia 100% Muslims, no synagogues, no churches are allowed. Yes, there are 49 countries that are Muslims, Muslim countries. And it's okay. Israel is taking only 1/800 of the Middle East. About people being there, there's nothing wrong with having a Jewish home. Why not? We're not going to start. You should be the neutral one. Okay?
I'm trying.
You're not doing such a good job. Okay? I will tell you this. Okay? About people, Palestinians being there thousands of years, I don't know if people called Karako, which is from Jordan, Trabulisi, which is from Lebanon, El Masri, which is Egyptian, and Zarqawi, which is a river in Jordan, I'm not pretty sure that they were where Israel is now exactly. In 1850, I know that they started coming there more Arabs because of the building of the Canal of the Suez. When we started coming there were more Arabs than Jews. We started coming because of a few reasons. First, we wanted to go back to our homeland. There was never, as I said, any Palestinian sovereignty, Muslims Palestinian sovereignty in Israel. Jerusalem never belonged, was never a capital of any country except for a Jewish one or a Jewish kingdom. These are facts. Now I do understand that Palestine. Tell me one time that let me say this. In 49, it was occupied by Jordan until 67. Nobody thought of making Jerusalem a capital of anything. It was pretty much neglected. Nobody thought about 20 years almost. Nobody said anything about making a Palestinian state. What happened? Why 20 years you had this, and sir, I can see that you're old enough, I respect you, you know this. And you know that before 87, we had the best years. Between 71, 3-4 years after the beginning of what you call the occupation, until 87, we had pretty normal life. I could go as a kid to Gaza, yes, and we used to buy there. We had hummus there. You remember this? I don't know if you're from Gaza. What happened, of course, at 87, is that the Hamas came and changed everything. Cože jsou to fakty. Můžete to číst. Můžete to zjistit. You can argue with facts, but they are facts. Between 71, 72 until 87, there was more problems out of Israel than in Israel. 87 started the Intifada. Okay. How many checkpoints were in 86? 0. How much time did it take to get out of Gaza in 87? 1 to 2 minutes. Or you say no? This is the truth. Until 87, no checkpoints, no problems. People going to work in Israel, 1 to 2 minutes maximum. And then what happened? The first Intifada started the checkpoints. Then in the year 2000, we had a new Intifada. Then we started building walls. Our obligation is to protect our citizens, to try to make peace. We know that it's very difficult for the Palestinians now. We know it's not easy for them. We don't hate. We don't hate anyone. We're not racist as you think. People in the checkpoints, the Jews, the Israelis, the soldiers there, have a commitment to take care of their people, and we know something, and you will have to admit it. If we show a little bit of weakness, slabost, když ukazujeme, takhle to skončí. We had a very nice suicide bomber.
More time now than Jackie.
Okay, so what was it? There was one last thing that I wanted to say.
Can you speak in English? Because I can't understand.
Can we move on? Because
okay.
This will
I will ask one last thing. Is it fair that the most educated group in Israel, because Palestinians are not our citizens, this is why I disregard when somebody says apartheid. Apartheid is to your citizens. Every citizen in Israel can choose, can vote, can be voted. I have a question. Is it okay, in your idea, that the most educated... Please.
You're over 5 minutes, David. I'm sorry.
I just have a question.
You're over 5 minutes.
I just have a question.
It's even more time.
Let me finish. Then I will make it shorter. Is it okay that the most educated group in Israel makes much more money than the least educated group in Israel? Is it okay or is it wrong?
That's enough.
No,
okay,
I'm asking.
We move on, okay.
The answer, I'll just give the answer, please. The answer is the most educated group in Israel is the Christian Arabs. And they make much more money than the least one, which is the ultra-Orthodox Jews, which make the less money. This is Israel, and I'm proud of it. Christians make more money than Jews. Thank you.
Okay.
This is Zionism. So tell me we're racist.
We would just stay in circle if...
Yeah. Because what I'm not going to do, because, you know, when you're talking to somebody who has a view of history, as far as I can see, that has been constructed straight from the Israel propaganda department, you have nowhere to go on it, because I will just tell you other facts, and then people get bored of the debate. And I think I prefer to bring it back down to a much more simpler debate around ethics, because you've been really polite and thoughtful, which, you know, in terms of me. But the bottom line is, what Israel is saying about people like me, who have the kind of views I have and support BDS, is that I'm an anti-Semite. And along with that, you know, along with that thought, comes a whole load of harassment, comes people losing their jobs, comes victimization through the media. And what I think is a shame is that I don't have the right to turn round to you, we don't have a right as anti-Zionist Jews to have our feelings and our ideas made clear and made public without being called self-hating Jews, without being called anti-Semites, and worst of all, without being called capos. It's abusive. It's abusive and insulting. But even if I wasn't Jewish, sorry, please, can you stop talking in the middle? I find it really distracting.
What's a capos?
Capos were the Jewish guards of the concentration camp. So that's what they call people like me. And I think we have to be really clear about what's happening at the moment. I'm going to move this on because we suddenly have this thing that's called the new anti-Semitism. So the old anti-Semitism was the one you recognise. It was the one where you hate Jews for being Jews. And I think we would all share, I would hope, agreement that that is despicable. This new anti-Semitism was something that was cooked up by some academics in Israel, the propaganda unit in Israel, the supporters of Israel, because what they were concerned about, exactly as you were saying, was that actually people were looking at Israel and instead of seeing the desert blooming, the wonderful technology, they were seeing Palestinian children dying because there aren't incubators. They were seeing Palestinian homes being blown to smithereens. They were looking at the kind of treatment that Palestinian children get when they're imprisoned. And they needed to change that debate. And the way that they decided to do that is to institute this new idea of anti-Semitism, where anti-Semitism is when you criticise the state of Israel. And my problem with this is, it's almost like Israel wants its cake and eat it. It wants to be treated, it says, like any other country, but at the same time, it wants to be treated as a special case. Well, as far as I'm concerned, I want to treat Israel with the judgment I would use to any other country. And it doesn't matter to me how many Muslim states or whatever you name. I mean, for example, the marriage laws, I just had a quick look at this. All marriages have to be authorised by the religious authorities in Israel. All marriages. There's only, I'll give you the list of countries where that is the same. Because that's Pakistan, Iran, Afghanistan and Saudi Arabia. Now, if you want to put your country along with those despicable countries, then I say you need to be judged alongside with them.
We will be so stuck.
5 minutes, so let me.
She spoke less than 5 minutes. Much less.
4. Give me 2. It's enough for me. Okay?
2 minutes.
Okay. First of all, about killing Palestinians, we really try not to make it happen. We try to save lives and minimize the Palestinians killed. Again, you say no. Let's talk about numbers. The 6-day war, I'm not proud of this. In 6 days, we killed about 22,000 of our enemies. From 1920 until 2017, 26,000 Palestinians were killed. Write down the number, please, so you can check. I see you don't trust me. 26,000 Palestinians killed in 97 years. Almost the same number which when we wanted to kill, we killed in 6 days. Again, I'm not saying that what happened in 6 days war, please don't write it, that I'm proud of us killing so many people. No, every life is sad. But, yes, and I'm sorry, we are facing an enemy, not you guys, most of you are nice here, but we are facing people that can be very radical. Hamas is very radical. standing here at the end, the person that my daughter, my kids and his kids were going to the kindergarten, and he told me one time, if my daughter will die and one Jew will die, I will be happy. You remember this, sir?
Yes.
Good, thank you. This is radicalism. This is a terrible thing to say. When I was in Gaza serving, I saved Palestinian kids when I could. I gave, it's going to be in Czech, a terrible facka. Silna facka dostal ode mnie ne policajt, wojak, který nechoval, oh, I'm sorry, I forgot in English. I gave a terrible slap, I forgot, thank you, to one of us, a young guy that was thinking he could be not nice to Palestinians in Gaza when I was keeping the minister in terror. This is the truth. 26,000 Palestinians dead in 100 years. Check the number. This is nothing. It cannot be compared to any other war, to any other bad situation. Yes, I know you guys have it hard. What can we do? You have radicals among you that say, I would lose my daughter for one Jew killed. Is this okay? Answer me this, please. And the last thing that I wanted to say...
It's over 2 minutes.
Oh, okay, 2 minutes happened.
Okay,
Thank you very
enough,
much. Thank you very much.
Enough. Okay.
I know.
Let's move on.
Can Jackie answer this? Is it okay that
Yeah,
the other
yeah,
person
I'll
saying
very happily
one
answer
kid,
it.
he would let his daughter die with one Jew? Please answer justice.
Yes,
Thank you.
I will answer it. Shh. Gosh, it's like being in a classroom again, guys. And you guys at the back, I'll come and sort you out in a minute. Look, there are bad people everywhere. However, you know, we can account all sorts of people who say and do bad things, including the general of the army who recommended that Palestinian could be raped as a tool of war, for example. And I have seen the footage. I have seen the footage of it. Palestinians, everybody recognises, by the way, apart from obviously Israelis, that the Palestinians are under a state of occupation. Now, everybody recognises it. And
thank you. Thank you very much.
Okay, civilized. Remember?
It's not funny. I believe
right,
it's
okay, let me be more specific.
No.
Everybody except Israelis recognises that this is an occupation. And when I say everybody, I do actually mean everybody. According to the Geneva Convention, you are allowed to fight against occupiers. So when Ahed Tamimi slaps that soldier, good for her, I say, just slap him one more time, because they came into her home. They came into her land. And you know, we need to actually understand that this is an occupation going on, and the Palestinians have every right to fight I mean, would you have told those in the French resistance that they shouldn't fight against the Nazis? This is madness. If people are occupying your land, you have the right to resist.
Thank you. Wait. This is one question I will keep going in circle. Okay, that's enough. Okay? Now I have to be strict, okay? Kids, come on.
Hit me on the hand. No problem.
Okay, the next question actually was partly covered.
Never mind, we can answer again.
The next question was that the minister, Israeli minister Sharansky, defined that when criticism becomes anti-Semitic, that there are these 3 Ds: demonization, delegitimization, of...
We answered this already. I think we can move to the next question. We answered this now.
Not exactly, but anyway, okay. So delegitimization, demonization, and double standard. Double standard was covered. What about this demonization and delegitimization? Jackie, it was for you. So
I'm going to keep this really short because I do think we've covered a lot of it.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, But I do not believe that you can be racist by criticising a state. I don't think that's how racism works. I think racism is about power, actually, as well. I'm kind of old school, so I reject all this new anti-Semitism stuff. It's just nonsense. It's constructed to protect Israel. You know, I would love, and actually we did. I remember when we were struggling against apartheid in South Africa, you know what we had the Afrikaners saying? We had them saying, we're a white minority in the middle of a sea of blackness. Why can't Afrikaners just have a homeland of their own? You know, by criticising us, by demonising us, you're actually being racist against us. What I want to do, like I said, is put the same standards of human rights, of international law, which Israel breaks repeatedly, against Israel. And then there'll be no need to demonise. I don't demonise, I campaign. Actually, the people who demonise, I'm sorry, are the supporters of Israel who call people like me anti-Semite, self-hating Jews and capos. That is what I call demonisation. Having my children read about people saying they're going to set me on fire, that they're going to lynch me, that they're going to take me to a Muslim rape gang. I call that demonisation, not what criticism of a state is.
Thank you. Okay, wait. We have to keep going. Okay, this was a question for Jackie about, and it was actually taken from Israeli criticism. Okay.
I should be able to answer.
We will not. You can in the end. Okay, because we will not end this discussion. Okay. So the next question is for both of you. How do you explain that BDS is gaining more and more support around the world from whole unions, universities, churches, artists, doctors, many others, and amongst all Jewish organizations? And on the other hand, Israel is gaining and welcoming more and more support from extreme right governments, even racist, even anti-Semitic. So if you want to go first, David?
I'll let the ladies.
Oh, okay.
You are welcome.
I am going to tell you lot off at the back, actually.
Can you check the time?
It's not surprising. I think that the BDS are gaining support because, you know, I'm a socialist, and as a socialist, I kind of cling on to the idea that there's good in people, but most people want to see justice. It's a natural response when you see what is basically one of the best equipped armies, not in the region, but in the world, hammering away at one small little enclave. And also, you know, the fact of the way that Gaza is being starved of water and being starved of so many resources. And I think people are seeing that really clearly. I think what's more interesting is why somebody like Trump, who is a racist, he's a misogynist, and he has obvious anti-Semites in his government, runs to Netanyahu almost as soon as he gets elected and names Jerusalem as the capital. That is much more fascinating. What's really interesting coming from England is the way that our far-right fascist groups, the EDL, Britain First, and these are far-right racists, are now going to Israel. And when they come on demonstrations now, they're waving the Israeli flag. And it's a complicated story, but I'm going to simplify it in one way. I remember listening to this guy. He was a white nationalist from the States, yeah? So he believed that what he wanted was to have separate parts of America off that would become basically all white. And there would be another part of America for people who were non-white. And he was a big supporter of Israel. And when they asked him, oh, hold on, you're an anti-Semite, he said, yep, I'm an anti-Semite. He was proud of it, because he's proud racist. He said, but look, they're getting what we want. We want a land only for white people. So they have a land only for Jews. And we want what they've got. And I think that tells you why you've got such an upswing of far-right racist support for the only Jewish state. Our ancestors would be ashamed of this. They would.
So that's 2 minutes 20 for you.
If you don't want, I don't have to say anything at all.
No,
Thank
no,
you very much.
you really wanted to keep the time straight. It's equal, so I'm just telling you.
Oh, I don't have to. Okay. The BDS is very effective when it comes and it shows one side. Most of you people that support BDS are good people. I'm not calling you anti-Semite. Of course, you're just people that don't understand and forget about... Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, stop my time again.
Keep it down, please. Okay. There will be time for questions.
Okay. I'm not saying the people that support BDS. Oh, it's there.
Yeah, he's got.
Support
what he's
BDS,
saying is his microphone's off.
Sorry. It's okay. You can go.
No, stop my time again, please.
I'll give you 20 seconds more.
I'll give him
45.
a minute more. So
I can count.
Come on, David.
People that support BDS are not bad people. They are just people that don't look at the whole picture. If I would look at the fact that the English bombed and destroyed Dresden again, I would say they are terrible. But when I look at two more things, one, the bombing, the horrible things that the Germans did to England, and the fact that in Dresden were over 50,000 factories that were helping the German war machine, plus they wanted to make it shorter, the war, this is why they bombed. In order to see all the picture, you need to take in mind two more things. One, we are at war. We don't like this situation. We don't like to do things that are being done. We have no choice. We were born to this. I was born 50 years ago, and it was much longer than my life expensive when it started. I'm sorry, but we have no choice. One, we are at war. Two, who are we in war with? With the Hamas. People that say that, yes...
David, sir, but this is not answering the question.
This is my answer. Let me answer the way I want. When Hamas encourages global jihad, and they do, when Hania says Osama bin Laden is a Muslim hero, when they are being radical and saying things that we cannot even hear about being able to sacrifice their kids to have one Jew killed.
Okay, that's it. You used your time.
No,
you did, and you didn't even answer the question. I'm
This
sorry.
is the way I want to answer.
No, this is what you want to talk about.
Yes, I do. You cannot dictate me. This is an open call.
I'm not dictating. I'm asking you a question, and you refuse to answer.
My answer is this. BDS it succeeds because they forget to show the whole picture. One, we are in a terrible war.
Okay,
every 2 days, people, at least one Jew is being killed. This is not a normal time for us, like here in Czech Republic, that we sit in checkpoints and torture people for no reason. We have a reason. Our reason is our safety. Second thing, the Hamas, this is our enemy. The Hamas is not a normal enemy. They are radical. They are very cruel. They killed more Palestinians than us.
David, okay, that's enough. No, come on. No, you're not.
What?
No.
I will enter it, yes.
No,
What?
wait. We don't want, it's gonna soon
I'm speaking
happen,
like every Israeli. Every Israeli will say the same thing.
David,
we're not
please
happy from the situation.
Focus on the second part of the question. How do you explain that Israel is getting so much support now, mainly from the extreme right-wing governments, even racist, anti-Semitic, and welcoming it?
4% of
not having a problem
fact,
with it.
please check it. 4% of American Jews support BDS, the others don't. So you're calling 96% of the Jews in America...
I'm talking about Trump, Mr. Trump, and his supporters.
What about Trump?
Orban,
Everybody has politics. half of Trump's family is Jewish. So of course he's on our side. Why so many people joined the BDS and helped them? Because 1.8 billion people are Muslim in the world, and most of them will support Muslims. This is my view.
Okay, you already used much more time.
No problems.
Okay?
If you want from now on, I can just say hi to the people and sit down. I don't mind. I think what I say speaks for itself.
And the next question is for you, so you have another floor, okay?
I want 5 minutes.
What is so frightening about one-state solution, one person, one vote? And please stick to
again, one state.
One state. What is so frightening
what is
about
so
one
frightening?
state, one person, one vote?
One person? What do you mean one person, one vote?
That means democracy.
It's democracy.
Yeah.
One
person has a one vote.
Actually, we have. This is not funny. We have it already in Israel. Israel is a very democratic country. We have already, we have, if I'm not mistaken, 6 Muslim parties in the Knesset. Okay, we had Minister Mujadala. What else? We had even normal people. Us are not racist at all. You can see that if
member of the Supreme Court.
What? A member of the Supreme Court. By the way, the best example is an Arabic judge put a Jewish president in jail. If there's anything else you don't want to, you want to ignore. We are a democracy. What else do you want to say? I'm sorry.
Well, what about actually the Palestinians in the occupied territory?
Palestinians are not our citizens. They are stuck in this situation the same like us. This is the funny thing. You think you guys are suffering? Do you think we want to send our kids? Let me speak to them, please. Stop dictating. You didn't say
dictating.
one word to her from the beginning.
I'm just looking at you. Sorry.
Thank you. We are not happy from the situation as much as anybody else. We're not happy from this. We wish we could change it. We tried in 2005. We decided to give it a try. It was called Gaza First. We went out of Gaza. We opened the border to Egypt without one Israeli soldier there. It was given to Egyptians, the Palestinian Authority, and a group of European watchers. Okay? Not only that, we took out all the settlements, all of them out. You talk about the settlements. Settlements in Judea and Shomron are only 1.7% of all the land. Settlements, like it's millions of people, or covering so much place. We went out of Gaza. We reached out our hand, and we said, "Awa salam, biddi ahki ma'ak." I want to talk to you. I want to make peace with you. What did you do? Chose Hamas instead of the PLO. Started bombing us.
It's called democracy.
Okay, you're right. So you guys chose a war. We said, here's peace. We went out, we took out. It was a terrible thing to pass. And it was done by a right-wing government. They took out all the settlers. I was happy from this. They told them all, you go out. They said, this is your territory. Do what you want. We're not going to cover the air. We're not going to cover the Rafah crossing, which is to Egypt. You're free to go. Do what you want. It's between you and the Egyptians. You chose Hamas. You chose war. I'm still willing to call you my friend even after the terrible things you said. I know you said it to me already twice. It's okay. I will live in a hope that one day will be peace.
Yeah,
you don't have to.
When you leave.
That's it.
When we leave, that's what Hamas says. All Jews should leave. Why?
That's enough.
57.
2 minutes.
No,
2
now
minutes.
I want one more minute. 57 states
David,
decided
Sharing
now.
this panel,
Please
I'm
let
sorry.
me. No, please.
Well, you
Let me
want
finish. You never stopped here 1 second.
Because she spoke 2 minutes.
Give us a story.
Yes, what?
Look,
Give us
there's
a story. Give us a
Yes,
story.
57 countries said to the British, we give you a mandate. 57 countries and said, you decide what's going to be there. All the countries that were important at that time said, we give it to you to the British. The British said, we will divide it in 2. We said we're happy, and anyone that will stay on our half, which most of it was the desert. Most of it was the desert. Yes? Beersheba, Negev and stuff.
David,
we said,
David, you're getting
check
too
the
much
map.
heated, and you will never
check the map.
stop.
If you
I need
prove
to
me it's not,
shut
I'm
you up,
joining
actually.
BDS. Yes,
David,
and
David, enough. Okay.
not being fair.
I'm totally fair with the time.
No.
You are not being fair.
You cannot cut me off. When did you cut her off?
She spoke less than 2 minutes.
I don't
You
care.
say
You
you
gave her 5
don't
minutes.
care. But no,
give me 5 minutes,
no,
I will use
after
all
she
of them.
spoke 2 minutes, then you 2 minutes. We agree.
There should not be a moderator which is a Palestinian supporter. I'm sorry. You failed me. I'm disappointed.
Come on. Jackie spoke 2 minutes.
Okay,
2
I
minutes.
apologize. Thank you for letting me speak. Thank you very much.
Please,
Can I
don't
just
get angry.
say-
It's really like this.
Can I just say about the right of return? Can I just say about the right of return? My partner's people also came from Morocco
Okay.
and from Poland. They came to England in the 1880s, 1870s. They don't even have any sense of when they were in the land that is now called Israel, Palestine. But he has a right of return. And that right of return that he has compares very badly with the Palestinians who would also like a right of return, many of whom were born there, many of whom have had grandparents there, many of whom have had their land taken away from them. Hundreds and thousands, 750,000 Palestinians cleared from the land. Okay, 750,000 Palestinians cleared for the land. One thing I'd like to say
How many would
is
you like
I
to come
think,
back now?
I think
I'm asking you.
Please,
Something is not
please.
I'm-
You can.
I think
There
it's a
will be
discussion or
floor.
not.
for-
I came from a discussion.
Okay.
It's okay, never mind.
Yeah, there will be
Nobody put
discussion
Kamach
after.
nobody.
Read paper and you will know about the fact.
Please,
No, we said we don't
please
really
keep it.
argument here.
We said let's keep it civilized,
Can I
okay?
finish? Can I finish what I was going to say? Let me finish what I say. There could be peace, but it certainly wouldn't be easy.
Of course.
Because if you look at what's happened to the land, and particularly now, with Netanyahu, the most awful right-wing racist that Israel has ever had, I would suggest, most awful man, who has actually encouraged the building of more settlements because he's emboldened by what Trump is doing. Do you actually envisage that it would be easy to get those settlements actually moved? And it strikes me that what we still haven't heard is what's wrong with going into a proper negotiations where what we have is a secular single state where Palestinians have a right of return and we have one person, one vote. I mean, that's what I would suggest, but it's actually not my job to suggest. But there is a fantasy that's prolonged by the Israeli government, which is that we have been in peace talks. I would just say that's absolute nonsense. I would say every time there have been so-called peace talks, they have just been ways of masking the continuing, increasing settlement program, occupation and oppression of the Palestinian people. And we're not going to agree about history, but I'm still waiting for the answer about why what I'm saying is racist, and you still have not given me that answer.
It's exactly 2 minutes. So 2 minutes, okay?
The reason I don't say what you say is racism because it's not. It's your opinion. You have a right to say your opinion. Like everybody else in Israel, we are a democracy. Everybody says what they want. When Hanim Zoabi says that we are murderers and she joins a boat and she's from a member of our Knesset, our parliament, she joins a boat and she goes with it to Israel and our soldiers are being attacked by many people with knives and sticks and there's a whole war. With her encouragement, We just say, okay, it happened, and she's still in the parliament. About the right of return, 750,000 people left. Okay, most of them listened to the Arab countries that said, get out. You can check again. You say no. Get out. We are going to butcher all the Jews. Don't worry, we will make it. If you, me and you, we will give mail to each other. If you find me this is not true, I'm joining BDS. You have already 2 examples to make a Zionist into a BDS supporter. So 750,000 of Palestinians, most of them left because they believed that the country will be butchered from Jews and they can return. 850,000 Jews, like the family of my father, were thrown out, murdered, kicked out of Arabic countries. Our people were taken in Israel by love and helped. All Palestinians that ran away were forced to stay in refugee camps, not given citizenship, not being allowed to work. Only Jordan was a bit fair by giving them citizenship. But even in Jordan, until today, so many years later, they are in refugee camps, which is nonsense. According to the law of the UN, a refugee is a refugee. His son is not. According to the Palestinian decision, the grandchild of a refugee is still a refugee. You understand what's the problem? If today 3.2 million Germans were kicked out, if today will come back 30 million, would you let them into the Sudets? Time to move on. Time to move on and to accept this.
Exactly.
Hebron, where Abraham, Yitzhak, and Yaakov are buried. Just 20 seconds, please.
Give him 20
You were
seconds.
saying I'm not being fair.
Please, just give me 20 more seconds.
You,
Hebron,
5
which
seconds.
is where Abraham, Yitzhak, and Yaakov are buried. All the Jews that they lived there for 3,000 years
4,
were butchered in 1929.
5.
Now it belongs to
David.
you Palestinians.
David.
Enjoy it. But
David.
let us enjoy the land
David.
that you lost by war. Sorry.
David, I recommend
Sir,
you
high
read
point.
the new Israeli historians who come from the
You're supposed to be a moderator and not
I know,
to
but
interfere.
yeah, but
No, you
that
cannot
doesn't
say
mean
your
I
view.
cannot
Do I
say
have a
any
moderator?
comment.
No, you cannot. Is there a moderator here helping me? No. This is the unfairness of this discussion.
Mentioning
Let's
Israeli
ask-
historians?
when you write
Okay.
down Zionism against BDS instead of
Okay, I
Zionism,
will not say
Hamas,
anymore.
you
I
cannot
will
say
leave it
anything
for
about
the
Hamas.
discussion.
Be fair, come
Okay.
on. I came
Okay,
here as a
last-
friend. I want to talk. I'm not racist. I don't hate Palestinians. I don't hate anyone.
Okay, so I'll say it then.
Thank
It's a
you.
wonderful Israeli historian called Ilan Pappé, who has actually detailed, using historical documents.
Being paid by Palestinians to do that. Sorry.
David?
I'm sorry. I apologize. I just know the story.
Exactly what happened. Now, you can say the history is contested, which is in a way why I didn't want to get into this, because actually this is a very commonly used strategy to divert against the issue at the moment. Because if you notice, the issue that he hasn't, responded to is why racist leaders are all running to Israel to offer support. You still have not answered that.
Merkel is
And
racist.
that is at the kernel of what we are talking about. Why is it? Take away Trump. I'm going to read you something from the British Board of Deputies, which is, the religious grouping of Jews in Britain. She says, the BNP, which is our far-right fascist group, the BNP website is now one of the most Zionist on the web. It goes further than any of the other mainstream parties in its support of Israel. And I'll just leave it at that. Why do you think you have anti-Semitic, racist parties in support of Israel?
Can I answer
That's
that?
less than 2 minutes. We will, the last...
It's her choice. Can I answer?
I don't mind. Don't get...
Thank you. Okay.
But-
First of all, I will read you also something, but I will say if I'm allowed to say that. Yes. You again and again you're forgetting we are in a state of war. Angela Merkel, by the way, said that she is calling the Hamas organization a terrorist organization. If this is not, yeah, you speak about us, we have to speak also about the Palestinian side. What? They don't do anything wrong. Everything's fine. They don't butcher, they don't blow up. If we didn't put the wall, there would not be bombs every day like there were for 2 years until we stopped it with a terrible wall, but that saves life. Checkpoints save life. I'm sorry, but this is the truth. I want to read 2 things if I can. First thing, I have asked my family to stay close to me. I knew what to expect and I was right. We were stopped and asked to show our papers. The question started, where are you going? Open your bags. The crowd gathered quickly and they started harassing us, calling us names. I could recognize some of the faces as they were spitting on us. I have lived here all my life. This is my home. And now in front of me, of my children, I'm being stopped, harassed and get spit at. My only crime is that I am from German origins and live in London.
What?
Can we move on?
Go to Dresden and you will find the museum there. This is how English people did to Germans living in London when there was war. In war, you're not normal. Nobody's normal. You can laugh as you want, but we are also people. And we also react to a situation, and we definitely react to a war. Okay? Now, I want to read to you one more thing. Okay? Do I have still time or not?
7 seconds.
Still not. It's okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, can we move to another question because we were just saying, and
We
that's
can,
the
but
last
I just know
question,
that
and then
he's still not
we're-
responded to my question. You know, never mind.
about her?
I can tell you the
But I
answer.
said
at
Angela
some
Merkel.
point.
Okay,
I don't think
the
Angela
last-
Merkel is a racist, and she spoke against the Hamas. She said they are terrorists. This is the one we're facing. We don't face normal people like you, sir. If you were the enemy, we would have wonderful life. You're not.
the last and closing question, and then the floor will be
What?
of the
Don't
audience.
say it.
Why not?
Because I myself was deported for 22 years, although I
But
did not
we will
resort
keep
to
it
the
for
arms.
the-
Just because politically I am against the occupation.
What did my father do in Morocco? Did they kick him out
we
and
will
stole
keep it
all
for
his
the
money?
question
What did he
time,
do?
okay,
Nothing.
from the
He was
audience.
Jewish.
We will keep it
Why
for
are
the
you there?
people, please.
This is our land.
Please,
Please. We say. We say.
please,
No, it's not God.
Last
It's
question.
the kingdom of Israel. Judah and Shomron. What is
Last,
Judah?
David,
Yehuda.
David,
Jewish. You're
David.
fighting about a land called Yehuda. You
David.
call it like this too.
David, there will be floor for this.
No problem, I
last
apologize.
question for both. What is the lesson of Holocaust, and
Wonderful question.
what is the lesson of Holocaust, and what is the most dangerous form of racism you define today? You can
I'm the
start.
first? But ladies first, I'm sorry.
Maybe you should calm down for a second.
Yes.
I'm thinking, because this is a very serious question to respond to, and I don't take this lightly at all. And I'm presuming what you're talking about is the Nazi Holocaust, specifically.
Sure.
Yes.
You know, because the Nazis weren't the first people to commit genocides. Only 30 years before the Nazis, the Belgian regime in Africa killed 12 million African people, by the way, under their regime. So, if we're talking about the Nazi Holocaust, for me, the profound and the power of the Holocaust is not just, it's not that it could happen to Jews, but that it could happen to anyone. And it's not that the Germans did it, or that those collaborators with the Germans did it, is that humanity is capable of acting in this way. Because if that is not the message of Holocaust, then all it becomes is a free ticket. All it becomes is a tiny commemoration of one historic event, which was, without doubt, by the way, the worst genocide of modern times. But the power of it, and we saw that, anybody who's read a lot about the concentration camps, and which I have done, anyone who's read any Hannah Arendt, the Jewish philosopher who's done so much work on Holocaust, and how people have responded to it, would know that the power of it is that this is what humanity can do to other humans. And this is the lesson we must take. And that is why, as Jews, as people who have experienced it, we have to stand up against it anytime we see it.
But the,
Okay, so two questions. First, what was the lesson we got from the Holocaust? Not to go to the gas chamber without a fight, especially knowing that many people would love to see it happen. This is the first lesson. Second thing, what is the most racist thing that can happen, or what is the worst racism? It's when somebody hates when he's not in danger, when he's not being threatened. This is terrible. I have helped Palestinians many times. I was a tour guide for many years. Happened that I met Palestinians and asked me, what is this, what is that? I helped them without any prejudice. They are people like me. Why are you laughing? I will tell you one thing about a nice Palestinian woman.
You were a soldier, occupying.
I wasn't soldier, I was protecting my country.
We're
You're
at the
taking
end.
from my time. Come on, please, please. Please, I did my duty. My duty is to protect my family, like your duty is to protect yours. In Gaza, we were taking care of the. There was no fighting. We were just watching the
1 minute. We're at the floor.
Ministry of Interior. Okay, the second thing about racism. Yes, the worst racism is being racist without a reason. I helped one woman, one nice woman, wrapped with all the traditional Arabic covering when I was in the metro in Mustek. I like to say this story. I helped her. I saw she was with the carriage with the baby. I helped her to take it up because going towards the Pajis hotel, there's no escalator. So I took it and I put it up, and I felt happy that I was helping. And she told me she's a Palestinian woman. I felt happy from this. And you know what she did to me? She asked me, "Men wen inta? Where are you from?" I said, "Min Israel, from Israel." "Ah, la, la, min Palestine." قلت لها, "La, min Israel." "No, from Israel." She spit on my face and went, "Good? Wonderful, we can make peace with you. You see? You are so nice." What?
Yeah, I didn't. I think that it went off early.
No, it's Israel and it's here to stay.
Okay.
We can share it
2
or
minutes.
not. And one state right of return is ridiculous. All of you. No, I don't think so.
Now
We need to find something else. And you should be, the Palestinian territory should be under Jordanian rule. Because we trust the Jordanians, we trust them, they are good people.
Finish that racism.
And they control already Jerusalem, they control the holiest place, right? The Waqf of the Jordanian. Let them control the rest.
Since you have again some extra time, can
Sure,
Jackie
sure.
finish
Of
the
course, I
question
love it.
about
Okay,
This is a
all the
debate. I like it.
statistics.
I like
I don't
it.
know.
Good, finally.
I don't know what's happening in the Czech Republic. I don't know all the statistics, but I do know the statistics in the UK. And in the UK, what we know is that actually Jews have never had such good conditions to be in. They are well represented at all levels, in the media, at all levels of business, at all political levels. They have good access to universities. And in fact, while you get some very Israel-supporting groups quoting increased assaults against Jews, in fact, they're using very bad data. And if you want to know the groups in the UK that are having a bad time, I'm afraid, and all you have to do is look at the police data on this, in terms particularly of violent assault, it's Muslims. And something was said at the conference I've just been to in Berlin, and I think this is very true, and I just want to say this is the last thing, because they kind of said anti-Semitism The old anti-Semitism has partially been recycled. The old European anti-Semitism has been recycled and is now appearing against Muslims. The same kind of words, calling them vermin, talking about we don't want to be swamped by them, talking about them being dirty, talking about them being infectious, talking about them being sexual predators, I guarantee you, is exactly what was being said about Jews by the Nazis. And I think when we talk about anti-Semitism and our awareness of anti-Semitism, we need to be really aware about how the language of fascism is now being repeated against Muslims.
This is why I'm so proud of Israel. You know, in other countries, women wearing hijab are being harassed. Israel is one of the only places which is a non-Arabic country, a non-Muslim country, where nobody would bother women being covered with a Muslim cover. We don't harass them. You can check this, by the way. There was a nice thing calling 10 hours of walking in Berlin, 10 hours of walking in London. Why you keep laughing? Just check the things, please, sir. And I know it's 2 minutes. Thank you. And I want to read to you something. Riyam Salah Yashi, 22, a Palestinian mother of 2 from Gaza City, killed herself and four Israelis at the Erez crossing on January 14. When they wanted to stop her, she started screaming, I'm pregnant, and I have 2 kids. She had something looking strange in her stomach. They let her come towards them. She blew up, killed 4 Israelis. Okay? By the way, at the time of Riyash's death, this is less important. The same day, Darin Abu Aisha committed suicide bomb. Sheikh Ahmed Yassin, the religious leader of Islamic militant group Hamas, issued a fatwa saying, we give permission to women to participate in suicide attacks, as well as listing the rewards in paradise that these female martyrs would receive upon their death. You're surprised we have checkpoints? You're surprised we stop them? 29 suicide attacks were carried out by youth under the age of 18 only between 2000 and 2003. That's 29 successful suicide attacks made by children. You're surprised we stopped children? 2012-04. Hamed Al-Karim from Jabalia was caught before suicide. He admitted he passed thanks to the fact that he was very angry at the guy at the crossing and told him, you let her also a few seconds, let me too.
Because before you talked
he told her, no, time, he told her, they asked him, how did you get in? He said, with the bomb and everything, he said, I was screaming at the guard, telling him I have cancer. Okay?
Now you're
this
taking
is how I
time from
scared
the
him.
audience.
What?
Democracy time out.
Okay, that's fine. I'm sorry. You're right.
Okay, so finally.
Okay.
Do you prefer now to maybe cool down and have 5 minutes,
5 minutes to
breathe, and then we continue, or you wanna go on? Go straight? Okay. Okay. Who wants to put the first question? I will let you guys. So
I would like to ask you some questions. I'm Václav from Prague. I did survive the Bolsheviks and the occupation by the Soviet army. So I would like to ask you, if you know, if you're up to your knowledge, that the people under the so-called occupation are able to watch foreign TV, are able to listen to foreign radio, are able to read foreign books, are able to travel, and the last question, if their priests are obliged to sign a treaty with the government of so-called occupying power, they then can go to make a sermon according to this treaty with the government. This is occupation. If these answers are no, there's no occupation. I'm sorry. I did survive the Bolsheviks.
I'm actually not interested in the Bolsheviks at this point.
No, occupation. You said occupation more than once.
Can you let me finish?
No, you said occupation more than once.
Do you know,
I am sorry.
You're doing your side no justice by the way you respond. Can I just tell you?
You're telling me that I don't speak proper English? The answer is very positive.
No, I'm saying you don't do yourself justice by interrupting me. It's rude.
It's not rude. If there is a discussion.
Okay, so every other country except Israel accepts that there is an occupation. Now, obviously, there are some people who have a different version of reality to all the other nations of the world. As far as I am concerned, as far as the UN is concerned, as far as my government is concerned, as far as every government in the world is concerned, it's an occupation. But apparently, because they can watch TV, it's not an occupation, according to my friend here. So there you go.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you.
No, let me answer also to the question. No? Can I answer also?
Yes.
Okay.
Please do.
Big separation between two different situations. I am talking about, I think your question was about the Arabs, Muslims, Arabs in Israel. They can watch TV, they can go freely, they can do anything they want, they can fly when they want, they can go back when they want, they have the same passport, they have the same life. I'm from Haifa. Half of my city was Arabs, we grew up together. We were like this. You couldn't tell the difference because everybody was the same. Everybody was acting the same. Some of them were more successful, some of them less. No difference. I'm sorry. As long as people will tell me that we'll keep radical ideas, as some of you do, not you, sir, then I don't think that it will change. You must change first, and then 80% of the Jews want peace. I want to tell you something about racism, okay?
David, now we really need to give the floor to the...
Sorry, I thought that you said you're not going to stop her.
Well, she didn't take so much time.
It needs a lot of time if
I know.
I want to refute what you have presented. But I am from Jerusalem. The first week of the occupation, they destroyed a whole quarter in Jerusalem, you know.
I know, of course, I know.
They destroyed 3 villages in the Latron, Awaz,
Yes.
Yalo,
Yes.
Betnu. You know,
Yeah, of course I know.
this is the occupation.
Can I answer?
Till now,
Wait,
till now, about 1 million Palestinians were detained, and till now there are about more than 6,000 in the prison. Today they start those who are detained without any trial. They started some kind of strike.
1 million is detained?
I tell you,
Give him time.
I'm not going to speak in detail about the destroyment, the liquidation. About 100,000 Palestinians were killed by the occupation.
What?
Yes.
About
Yes.
50 years. 50 years. Please,
Oh, I'm sorry, I thought my time to answer.
listen.
Okay.
You gave how to say it, as if the Israelis, the occupation, brought with it a paradise for us.
No. For Israeli Arabs.
The question till now exists. I'm not going to speak in detail about the other things. There is occupation or not?
Can I answer? Oh, sorry.
No,
I'm sorry.
you don't. You claim your narrative that this is your homeland and God gave it to you.
Did I say that?
And this narrative, you say that before 3,000 years, there was a state by David and Solomon. Although it is refuted by scholars, Israeli scholars, you know.
Okay.
Nevertheless.
You're right, you're right.
Nevertheless, it lasted for even if we agree about it and it existed.
Thank you.
Was not made.
Thank you.
It existed for 70 years. After
70 years? It was
70,
more than 700 years was the kingdom of
the
Israel.
state, no. And
The kingdom of Israel.
my dear, as a sect, Jewish sect,
Everybody
it was
says it.
existing always. As a sect, it was existing. And we had, and my mother told me, we had neighbors, Jews. We used to live very good with them.
I know.
They are Arab Jews.
I know.
They are not from Europe.
Yes.
But not to get in detail about it.
No, let me speak.
If we accept such a narrative, it means that we, the Arabs, who ruled Spain for more than 700 years.
Have the right to go back.
And they left only at the end of the 15th century. We could claim that Spain belongs to us and we could return for it, my dear. Nevertheless, as I told you.
It was occupation.
Can I answer?
No,
Oh, not yet. I'm sorry. I apologize.
You brought a lot of things, including you spoke proudly about the company. Teva. You know that it bankrupted last month. It was announced. You know it.
Its medications are still all over the
world. My
dear,
it bankrupted. Bankrupted.
Can I speak? Thank you. So, first of all, you said in some short time 100,000 Palestinians were butchered. Please open books. 26,000 Palestinians were killed by us in 97 years. If you check the whole figure, you will see that Lebanese killed you, the Jordanians killed you in like September.
Your business. If they kill us.
Check numbers. You said something, I said something else.
You choose for us last minute. You choose for us who will rule us. The Jordanians.
No,
you just said we want the Jordanians.
Why control you? There was never a Palestinian country. The idea of the Arab League, the Arab nation was to divide this between Jordanians, Egyptians, Syrians. Again, I have a proof. 49 to 67, 20 years Jordanian occupation. What was done? Nothing. Why? Nobody counted you. Nobody wanted Palestinians. I'm sorry about this, but I'm telling you the painful truth. They didn't want you to have a state. Otherwise, you're under Jordan. Gaza is under Egypt. Why they didn't give you nothing? Because you are a part of the Arab nation. You do have a history. It started in 1966. I know it. But there was nothing Palestinian.
This is over the edge.
Palestinian.
This is really over the edge.
You're supposed to be fair.
Not when you say outrageous things, you know.
Why do I need to argue with you? You're the moderator.
It's still big here.
Okay, so let's take another question.
People, especially you laughing in the back, tell me one Palestinian mayor before 1966. Zero. One Palestinian king. One Palestinian president. Nothing.
Let people speak.
The state of Palestine was recognized by the League of Nations in
When?
1924. As a state.
Let people.
There was an offer and it was refused.
We have to give the floor to the audience. David, let's be democratic.
No, it was not. It was. By whom? The Arabs refused it.
By the League of Nations.
The Arabs refused it. You didn't have a problem with us.
People let ask questions. Wait. We cannot have a discussion like this, people, okay? And let's give, David, we have to keep it really short. You keep giving lectures.
Yes, please.
Your first woman prime minister,
What?
Yes.
I actually can't hear.
Is on YouTube saying that she carried the Palestinian passport. You want to hear it?
Of course.
Of course.
But it's true.
What's
But
true?
Palestinian was British. Palestinian has nothing to do. How can Arabs choose a name with the word they cannot pronounce? Say Palestine.
Oh my God!
Wait, let me speak.
Not this one. Come on, this one is the really long one.
How can you be a moderator?
David, the people patiently listened for over an hour and a half. Okay,
they did not look like you. They were not Arabs. They were not Muslims. Islam is only here. Listen.
You need to let other
the name Palestine started hundreds of years before Islam started. Is it true or not?
It's in Torah.
What?
Palestine, in Torah.
Show me.
Wait. Look.
Palestinians living
We need a teacher here.
Show me in the Torah.
David.
It's not.
David,
The same like Jerusalem is not in the Quran.
Do you remember you
There's
told
no
me
Palestine in the
if I wave my
Torah.
hand?
This is true.
I'm waving my hand, David. Right, look. I don't know how this goes here.
Yes.
David.
Yes.
And I know you said you weren't used to these kind of forums, but this is the opportunity for the audience to speak, which means as speakers, when we make a response, we keep it very short. Otherwise, the audience are not going to get to speak.
Exactly.
Okay, another
Come on.
question. Okay, yes.
I need to let this person speak.
Can
So
I,
then we go to
Can
the
I
other
ask
side.
2 questions? They're very succinct and very
Sure.
well formed. Okay. The first one is I know the answer since you're an internationalist, but I want to know what you've done about it in the Labour Party. So you talk about occupied lands. So there are other occupied lands, and there have been settlement activities. So for instance, Morocco has occupied the Western Sahara and forced out many inhabitants. Turkey has occupied northern Cyprus and forced out all the Greek Cypriots, and there are no Greeks there near the border. Russia has occupied Abkhazia in Georgia and Crimea in Ukraine. So, since you don't make Israel a special case, what have you done to speak out about it in the Labour Party? And my second question,
okay.
Can I make a second question? Okay. There's an article in the Washington Post that you can look up within the last day or two by Anne Applebaum talking about anti-Semitism in Britain from the left, which she said wasn't so surprising, and now from the right, from the Conservative Party demonizing George Soros. So I'm asking about anti-Semitism.
Yeah.
I'm quoting her in the Labour Party. Nasreen Khan said that there were worse people than Hitler in the world, and what have the Jews done in the world?
Sorry, who said that?
Nasreen Khan.
Who is he?
She was a person that was kicked out of the Labour Party.
So she was a member of the Labour
She was a member.
One
of the
member.
Nasreen
Thank
Khan.
you.
Have you heard of Ken Livingstone?
Of course, I know
Okay.
Ken Livingstone very well.
Okay.
Okay.
So he also said that the Zionist Jews collaborated with Hitler and was kicked out of the
You're asking,
Labour Party.
I'd have to spend a lot of time answering these, so either can we
So,
limit it
so
or...
I'm saying, in England, there were several incidents, as you know, and there's a shomer in Stamford Hill among the Orthodox Jews. So, and I would ask you to check with the police in England about the incidents of violence against Jews by Arab, a lot by Arab inhabitants of England.
Okay, I'm going to do this really quickly because I do actually think this, and I think it's it's a lot of questions. So first of all, I've just said I campaigned against apartheid South Africa. When I was working as a development education advisor, I was working against the occupation of Sahara. I have boycotted Turkey because of what it's done. And this is just a load of whataboutery. I would say to you, apart from concerns about Israel, what have you done about other injustices? Wait, I haven't finished. No, I listened to... No, this is not how you debate. Okay?
No, you asked me. So I would say yes,
No, I have. That was a rhetorical question.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Okay. Why?
My question wasn't rhetorical.
Wait, let her answer,
I'm not
man.
saying that.
So
You answered the
rude.
question.
This
It wasn't
is
rhetorical.
so rude.
I'm not rude. It wasn't a rhetorical question. And what you answered it, I'm grateful to you.
You
Thank
wait
you.
until I've finished, then you speak. That's how dialogue works.
You attacked me. You said
How can you
rhetorical.
possibly
enough.
expect peace to break out when you can't even wait till the end of somebody's talk? It's shameful.
No,
It's shameful.
No, come on.
Let me finish. Right, next thing is the articles in the Washington Post are inaccurate and scurrilous. And they are...
Okay. I'm agreeing with you. I'm listening. Okay.
I'm going to speak about, I don't know who you're talking about with this member. Can I just say that the Labour Party now is the biggest party in the whole of Europe. It's got something like 700,000 members, okay? And you're talking about one person who I don't even know saying whatever. Now, I think it would not take me too long to delve a little bit in, say, Israel, and find some pretty racist things that have been said by people in Israel, particularly about Africans. Don't start me on that one. And let's just go to Ken Livingstone, who I know. Right? Ken Livingstone did the most for minorities, including the Jewish community in London, and any other politician that there has been in the UK. Now, when he was talking about the agreement between the Zionists, and Hitler, are you actually denying that there was an agreement whereby the blockade against Nazi Germany was actually broken? Are you saying that didn't happen?
I'm saying that in 1938, the Germans wanted to get a lot of people to Germany before there became eliminationists and so forth. And thank God, a lot of Germans were able to go to what was then called Palestine.
You see, that's an interesting thing about history, isn't it? Because the history that I have read on that subject showed that actually, when that blockade was happening, the Nazi regime was actually teetering on the edge of collapse. Teetering on the edge of collapse. And I want people to think about the possibilities of what might have happened, what all of us might have been saved from, had the Nazi regime collapsed. And actually, stopping that boycott assisted the Nazis to go further. Now, we can discuss why they did it, but it is not anti-Semitic to bring up the fact that that happened. So please, until you know more about British politics, don't come to speak to me about people like Ken Livingstone.
Okay, next question from the other side.
The Nazi regime was collapsing. You come to this country to
please,
say
you don't have. You already asked your question for a good reason. I gave you to the first actually floor for the question. That's enough. We need to go on. Okay.
Yeah, I just had 3 questions.
Sure, 3.
Yes.
Sure.
Well, yeah,
Sure.
anybody.
It's my turn, yeah.
Well, you
And if you
about
notice, she
history.
did not
One is
stop
about-
there.
I think
Yeah,
it's
now,
You spoke for a long time.
what?
Let us speak. Let us speak.
Okay, don't you? Oh, okay. Yeah, because they talk about Jewish history, David, Solomon, whatever, which is fine, which is okay. But as far as I know, they gave it to the Bibles, and the Bibles were written in Alexandria. On the other hand, what I'm interested for you to answer, to tell me from archaeology, where have they found any kind of writings where it says King David or Solomon on marble, on coins, because they were rulers. They would have to print money. Coins could be bronze, depends when was it, 1,000 before Christ. But it would be nice to find that. If you can show us, that would be really okay. Because apart from the Bibles and stuff, there isn't any recordings about Solomon, David. That's one question. The other one is like, you talk about war, like declaration of war. I was interested in a long war like Israel has with somebody. I'm interested about the somebody and who is it? Is it a country called Palestine that you're fighting? What are you fighting? Which country are you fighting? Or people? What is that you are fighting? And has the state of Israel declared war in their Knesset? That's the second question. The third question is, I don't know much about that, but I was interested if any of you two can answer it for me or have an opinion about Hazari Jews. If you know anything,
What?
because I don't Hazari Jews from Central Russia. Hazar Jews.
What about
I don't know
what's
much
your
about
question?
them, and I'm interested what you would say about the Hazari Jews from Russia.
From the
and what you would.
From the
I don't know
No,
much.
this is my question now.
There are 3 questions.
It's all right.
But please don't take too long, okay? We want more questions, okay? I'm just saying because of the experience.
Okay, thank you for asking.
What?
Was it short enough?
David, come on.
No, that's fine. Let's go on to another
So let me answer. You never told anything. Okay, first thing about history, yes. There were findings saying the kingdom of David. There have been few of them. Check and you will find it. More than once, okay? There is also one definite finding, which is the time when the name Philistine started at the year 135. Islam did not exist yet.
Artifacts like
That's a fact.
marble, something, wood, anything.
Can you check if I'm right and the name Palestine, Philistine, was invented? Please check. If it was invented in the year 135, a long time before the Prophet Muhammad even was born. Can you check it, please? Tell me until the end of
It's
the
from the
debate.
Bible, isn't it? I told you.
What?
Everything's from the Bible. The Bible was written in Alexandria, in Egypt.
Why you talk about the Bible? I don't talk about the Quran. Let's leave holy books on the side. I don't see any point. What are you trying now to?
But artifacts,
say
Israelis.
we are there
have been-
because listen.
Yeah.
I will give you an example. In Hebron, Jews have been there all the time for 3,500 years. All the time until in 1929 they were butchered and kicked out. This is the Hebron massacre. Check,
King
please.
David, what, Jewish? It says something like anything.
If you want me to answer, I will. If not, I will
We're
just shut up
turning
and
in
sit down.
circle again, okay? Let's move on.
Okay, so
Answer that.
one,
That's it.
yes, history. There are proofs that the kingdom of David was there. We are not talking about it too much because we have been there for thousands of years. There are places like Tiberia, Tzafat, Yerushalayim, and Hebron. These are 4 cities where Jews resided all through history for thousands of years. Write down the name, please, of these 4 cities. You don't want to check. You don't want to prove. I understand.
I'm happy
the truth
with
is.
the answer. I'm fine.
Okay, good. Who do we fight? And did we declare a war? No. We never declared a war. We declared peace. And then we were attacked by all the Arab countries. It was in that.
Okay, you answered the
I
question.
think you live in a fantasy land. This is the truth. We said we want peace. We want to divide the country into 2. All the Arab countries attacked us. You don't believe also this fact?
I've heard 67. I'm not
No,
an
it's
expert,
48.
but
It's 48. 1948.
Sakra
Okay.
Shatila, there was also in Lebanon. Many. I'm not a historian.
No,
I'm just
okay.
asking questions.
Okay. Can I continue?
Yeah.
So these are facts. 1948, a war was declared on us, not by us. We said we don't want war. We said every Arab that will stay in the half that we get will get equal rights, and we kept it. Every Arab, Muslim or not, in Israel is entitled to the same rights like us. That's one. And I'm from Haifa. I know it. Half of Haifa is the same. There's racism everywhere. I will tell you one thing which is very racist. This is a work which was done on the school books of Palestinian Authority.
David, it's too much time now. Let's go to another question, okay?
Oh.
Please, come on, you've been already...
Who's dying, David?
What?
Okay,
Who's dying by
Okay, the last thing, what was the last question? Khazari Jews.
I don't know much about them. I was interested.
Okay, so my answer will be very short. What does it have to do with our debate? Thank you.
They're Jews.
If you want to ask something relevant to this debate, I think some
let's go
Palestinians
to
here want to
the
hear
back
things
rows,
which
okay?
And I think I answered half the time of her, so you give me more time next.
She's not gonna answer now. Are you happy?
Yes, thank you. Just don't say it's a fair debate.
Good evening. I'll make it so short. 2 points. The first one is, you said by the UN law, the refugee is the one who is a refugee, not his generations, like son, grandson, and so on, right?
Yes, I said that.
And you were in the refugee camps, okay? So you shouldn't be like a part of the occupied state.
I don't
This is
understand the
related
question,
to. Let me just continue the second part.
I didn't understand the first question, I'm sorry.
The first question is that related to the UN resolution about the refugees, the definition of refugees,
yes.
What you have stated is that the refugee remains a refugee himself, not his grand...
Yeah, that's the law.
Yeah, this is the law.
Except for UNRWA.
Yeah, okay. Which should be applied also on you.
Yes,
right?
I know.
Good. So you
we're
were in the refugee
we're not
camp?
asking to get back the... No, wait. You let him and her speak. Now, please, you're really being one-sided. My answer to you quickly...
This is the first part of the question. The second part.
Okay, sorry.
Okay.
Okay.
Existing of the state of Palestine was mentioned due to so many correspondences between the British governments and their authorities and backwards to like granting visas or granting wherever, yeah, okay. Even I think Ariel Sharon's birth certificate was issued in Palestine. I mean like the mandate, British mandate of Palestine, but still Palestine, okay? So we still about this kind of name has been fulfilled for that until it was under occupation and like created the state of Israel, wherever. So what I'm trying to say is that there is 2 points that you should also apply. Are you above the law? When you are declaring the UN refugee statement about the refugees and you are not one of them, I mean, are you the second generation? You stated that you belonged rootly to Morocco, okay?
No, from my mother's side, I'm third generation in Israel. Actually, I'm fourth. Okay.
I'm the 100th generation in Palestine. I mean, like...
There was not even Islam.
Like
you can say what you want, but you're making up history that does not exist.
So, like, put it like that, okay?
Can I answer?
So, related, we believe that an existing...
No, you didn't give her 2 minutes.
Existing the problem...
After my answer, minimum 5 minutes, thank you.
Existing the problem is not reauthorizing
ruling here, okay?
Reauthorizing other countries to rule us because we are very equipped and we are really that level that we can rule ourselves. So we are not going to be ruled by Jordan with all respect to them. We're not going to be ruled by Egyptian with all respect to them because we are very equipped and very educated to rule ourselves. And if you have any points against that, okay, there's a lot of scientists all around the world that they are rootly from Palestine. They made very good inventions, also added values to the scientists and to the whole community. So you can't comment right now.
Thank you. Yeah. Okay, first of all, about your right, about the right of return. We cannot, and we don't even want to go back to Morocco, to Algeria, any other Arab country. Why? We are very happy where we are. Second, it is correct. They nationalized everything we have there. They're not going to give it back. My father's family.
Sir. I'm Moroccan and you're mistaken.
No. My family's family, they had the...
I'm going to ask you a question. You said you're born in Morocco.
What's that?
You're born in Morocco.
No, my father.
Your father?
Yes.
You're born in Haifa.
I was born in Haifa, of course.
I have my family.
Yes.
They make a lot of business with Jew people and they still have like empty lands now. They still have their business. Why you are saying this? I'm not against anything.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm not against, like, I want to be like neutral on this point, but what you are saying is not true. I'm Moroccan, and I've been in Marrakesh, Souera, and I know I still know Jew people, and we respect them. We are their love. They are flying with me from France, you know, to do my muna, to do a lot of things. So they are absolutely like, there's no problem.
And you notice that you came in and she didn't say anything because it's against me. That's nice. First, okay, about Morocco.
Did you say something?
About Morocco. I will tell you something.
The second question the guy was talking about.
I will answer all the questions, but is it okay if I answer the gentleman, please?
Well, I would like...
Let me answer in 1 second. Manage it, thank you. Okay, no time limit?
Here is a moderator.
Shukran. Okay, about Morocco. In 1942, lived in Morocco, 350,000 Jews, there are 2,000 now. In Tunis, there were 105,000, there are 900. In Syria, lived 30,000 Jews, now there are 30. In Iraq, live 120,000 Jews, Today there are 60.
If somebody came to
Why?
Morocco and asked you if you don't have money, or at least he will ask you like to go to
Please
Israel.
stop.
Just listen to me. I know a lot of organizations. They just came to Morocco to the Jew people, and they just, you know, they were like offering. No, listen to me. They were offering them a welfare life in Israel.
Yes.
That's why people left.
Yeah.
But now, if you go to Israel,
Absolutely.
just listen to
Moroccan Jews came to Israel. They lived in metal. They were
this is exactly.
My father was there 11 years.
I'm gonna tell
At
you
the age
why.
of 11, when he came, he was carrying metal until he could fake his age when he was 17 to 18. So he'd stop.
Then you have to
terrible job.
agencies where you were lying to them, not Moroccans.
What?
You have, I mean, this is not.
No, it was very hard, but we had the support.
I understand.
Yes,
But I'm gonna tell you how it's happened exactly. A lot of agencies after the war, they would come into Morocco and provoke people to come back. It's not only that in Egypt. The only country, I'm not proud of Morocco,
But you're right.
like that much, but I'm gonna tell you, it's the only country who's protected.
I know,
like
King
the
Hassan,
Jew.
they were
And
great.
now even people in Israel, they are like everywhere in their house. You can find like the pictures of Hassan Seged.
I know.
So,
but at the time of the war in 48, you
I have
guys
only
were
one
angry.
thing to tell you, sir. And
between
this, if you read
39 to
about your big
45.
boss is Theodor Herzl, I think
What?
his name.
Theodor Herzl.
Yeah. You know, a lot of historians, just 1 minute. The historian, when they wrote about him, he had like 3 spots to be chosen in the war. Argentina, north of Morocco, and Palestine.
Yeah.
So, don't mix between the religion, like...
No, I will tell you again. I will explain myself. In the time of the wars, and it started, I think, the worst time started in 1929, where there were the pogroms in the Jews, where we were being butchered by Palestinians, and not being able to retaliate. Everybody was angry. In time of war, people are angry. It's okay. I'm not saying Moroccans were bad. Hundreds of years, they were very nice to us. At the time of these wars, they were against us, so people ran away.
No, but this
Let me continue. Let me continue. Let me
He's the right
answer
hand of the king.
We can continue
Let me
this
answer you.
discussion after.
Let me answer you. I'm sorry. Okay. So, now I will answer your questions, okay?
But on this account, I have to say you should check Avi Schleim, who's an Israeli
About the right of
historian.
return, you are correct. You are a moderator. A moderator should not show any
I'm just
protecting our side. Dear
If you
Jana,
notice,
a moderator should not say anything.
Can I just say?
No, it's my turn now.
No.
your turn was
Can I
3
just
times
say?
now.
Can I just say the
No, you
amount
cannot.
of
Please,
space,
Jackie,
the amount of
Maybe
space
do
you're
2 times
taking
now. Yeah.
I
from
didn't
what
speak
should
yet.
be
He
the
spoke.
audience discussion is
interview.
not
I want to answer
respectful
him, this
to
nice
the
gentleman.
audience. It's not respectful to the audience.
So let me answer you.
But do it
This is not
quickly
respectful
so
what
that
you do.
people get a
I
chance.
didn't speak. The gentleman was speaking, not me.
Shocking behaviour.
Jackie.
Yeah, really. It's shocking behaviour. It's rude.
Okay.
People have come to have a discussion.
First about my friend, about the right of return. Yes? Okay?
Ти модеруєш, так я мусив послухати.
Декумоц.
Ано, і ви.
You are being so one-sided here.
You have
Okay.
floor 2 times now. Please keep it short or
About the right of
audience will not
return,
have
you are
time.
right and we don't want it. I am very... What?
We want our right of return.
But how many are you now? 7.5 million?
How many you came? How many you came? Sorry.
We?
Yes. I mean, as
1.2 million. That's it.
How many you came? How many groups?
My friend, it's not possible now.
Who said? It's our
I
right.
say, if you guys come back, it's finished. We don't.
David,
We
you are
cannot.
collection here, David. Collection here, David.
I think we should concentrate on what there is. You guys are there, we are there. Try to change the racist way you guys write. The school books.
don't
you cannot tell me what to read or not.
No, well,
Did you tell her what to say?
She was, please, you can check
David,
the
we
tape
saw-
after
we
and see
saw
how much time
many
are
films
taking.
about your
David,
schools,
you will see
please.
you're taking
Yeah,
too long.
We saw many
Okay,
films about
let's
your
move on.
schools.
No, I didn't answer.
What are you teaching in the schools?
Yes, okay. I will say this about the school books.
No.
One,
Jackie.
201 school books by Palestinians
Okay.
were described by everyone
Do
that
you
read them
actually think you've
as
had your
race.
share yet?
Let me speak.
Do you
I
feel?
didn't speak yet.
But you haven't. Actually, hold on. Can we just see? Do you actually really feel you haven't had your fair share of speaking?
Of course.
Well, can I just say that this kind of attitude may be part of the problem why we see such conflict. Because if you can take up...
I don't want to take any side. Give this man the opportunity to speak. I mean, we should be unbiased. I mean, I think this is a unique occasion that we hear people from two very different points of view behind one table.
Which doesn't mean that we will give all the floor now again to David. David, come to senses, like you really taking a lot of time. Let's take as many questions as we can from the audience.
For everybody here.
Yeah.
There is a work that was done by a man called... You don't want me to speak now? If you don't want me to speak now, I will go.
We're trying to give more space to the audience.
Nobody asked something I didn't answer yet.
Okay, we're going back to the 2 minutes, okay? We're going back to the minutes, okay?
There has been... 2 minutes are enough for me. Thank you. There has been a research of the books written by Palestinian. There are 201 of them. In the maps, they don't mention Israel, they say Palestine. They call us the workers of Satan. If you want, check it, find it. This work was done. Find school books of Palestinian Authority. All of them say that we are assistants of Satan, working for Satan. Everything was translated. This is the truth.
No, all the Palestinians
Anyone that will
go
prove me it's
through
not
Israeli
true.
I'm sorry, but this is not the answer of my question.
This is not possible.
You said that you are happy where you are.
I promise you true. Check it. Take a Palestinian book, school book. They all say we are studying.
So you deny that the Palestinian books in the occupied territories go through the check of Israeli authorities?
Yeah. No, they don't. They are written by the Palestinian territory. The only ones that are different are Gaza, which has a few more books which are harsh, more difficult.
Then you should check with the Israeli.
I give you all a challenge.
Educational
check Palestinian school
professor Nurit Pelet El-Hanan.
You are a moderator. Will you please shut up?
Because this is obvious lie.
It's not a battle here. What It's not a battle. We do not have F-16 here.
You must respect
people.
This was the first question. No,
and no F-16 here.
Okay, I know, my friend. But a moderator cannot say.
If somebody is able to do it, yeah, but don't say something.
Thank you, okay. Please, okay. I will...
Who's going to sit there now?
Good evening. I'm offering myself as moderator because Jana has been accused of taking sides. I certainly have an opinion on this. But I would really like us to get to a civilized form of debate on a very important topic. I will be very strict on time. Jackie, you've had much less time speaking. David, you've had much more interruption. I will not accept any further calls from the backbench.
Good job.
That's you. You can be as civilized as everyone else in this room.
Okay, well, not so bad.
If you don't... If you will continue shouting when David speaks, I will ask you to leave the room. Can we agree to those rules? Yeah? Thank you. Do I have the authority to send people out after a warning?
I think yes.
Okay.
We agree, everybody?
Thank you.
Okay. Let's continue.
Thank you very much, sir. I appreciate it.
Can I have a question?
Yes.
Very simply. Always they are saying about the democratic state, the only democracy in the Middle East, Israel. If you know, the history saying how Israel was accepted as a member of the United Nations. It was accepted after they agreed that for the 194, which is the right of return for the people to return back to their home and their property. why now they are saying, well, from that time already 70 years, and this was not accepted, even when to return back to his home. I am one of them. I am already 80 years old. I was 10 years old that time, and I have not allowed to return back, even as a visit.
Okay, David.
Okay, but should I stand? Please. Democracy is the rule of the people. We have a democracy. The people are ruling. They are voting. And why saying no? The government is being voted on. Another thing in democracy is the freedom of speech. There is a freedom of speech in Israel for all Israeli citizens. About Palestinians, I'm sorry, my friend, you are not our citizen. This is for the first thing. Okay? You're not. You vote for Hamas. You vote for Palestinian Authority. They are your rulers, no?
I am not allowed to
about you personally. About you personally. Can I answer the second question?
Okay.
Or no?
Short answer for the second question.
Yeah. Why you cannot return? I'm sorry, but this is the situation. Things changed. It was 70 years ago. At that time, states were being created with borders. We did not start the war. Not you personally, but Arabs were the aggressor, and they lost in a war. I'm sorry, this is a fact that was put on us. We did not want war, we won. Should I be sorry for this? No. Then borders were established, and then in '67, again, Arab countries wanted to attack us, and then there was another war. We won again. I'm sorry.
Thank you.
Well, actually, I'm not. Sorry.
Jackie, would you like to respond?
Well, I've almost forgotten how to speak, actually. So, yeah, I would like to say something. I mean, I don't know how many of you have heard of somebody called Miko Peled. He's actually called the General's son. And what's interesting about him is that his father was on the inside of all this stuff about the war that was going on. And I do think we have to be careful about being blinded by this sort of complexity, the 1948, and then actually this fantasy again, that Israel didn't want war. Read Miko Peled, and he will tell you about his father. And his father says, when we won the war, my father said, great, this is a real opportunity for us now to make the peace. And the general said, no. Israel doesn't want peace. Israel wants war, and it wants war for a number of reasons. It wants war because it's actually one of the biggest arms manufacturers in the world. It wants war because actually that is the way it's held on to territory, because this isn't a war in a normal sense. These are Palestinians throwing rocks, knives, and like kind of homemade rockets. And what's happening? They're being blasted by, super bombs.
Can I react to this or not?
Let's have another question.
Okay.
I just have a comment about Palestine, just history-wise, that the Jews say that they have been there 3,000 years ago, and who knows for how long.
We don't say 3,000.
Whatever.
We say 2,500.
And then they came out, they gathered themselves, and they came out after this period of time. This is fine for you, but it is also fine for us to try to do the same thing to return to our land, where we have been there for also thousands of years. Just a comment on the last sentence that Jackie made. Yes, it is in the interest of Israel and the Israelis, as Mr. David here is a representative of a company which is selling anti-terror strategies, whatever, to spread terror.
Yes.
And this is the fact of David. David is a representative of a company registered here as an anti-terror organization. So this is his interest. Just to give you a background on...
May I answer?
Sure.
Can I answer?
Sure.
I represent the state of Israel, not only in the academy against terror, but also in selling weapons to the Czech state. What is wrong with that? If Palestinians were able to create weapons, I think they would sell them too. What is wrong with that? I don't understand.
No, you see, if a pharmaceutical company is spreading disease to sell the disease, the medicine for it, then this is wrong. And this is what you're doing. You are spreading terror. You are spreading media terror. For you to be able to sell other countries like the Czech Republic, where you are selling huge security things.
Can I answer, please?
Just want David's response.
Yes. Okay, my friend. My friend.
I'm not your friend.
I know. My friend, this is exactly the Palestinian-Israeli problem. We want to be your friends, you don't.
I don't want to be friend with somebody who came to my land and stole my land.
It was not your land.
It is my land.
No?
David,
I disagree. Okay, I'm sorry.
I want Jackie to
about just one thing about us being so good at war. You have created this. When the first Jews came, the first Jews that came to Palestine were mathematicians, astronomers, physics.
Thank you, David. You've said that in the beginning.
No, I did not. This I did not say, by the way. But it's okay.
Can I just say that as far as I'm concerned, the arms trade is an immoral trade. It is immoral to make money out of killing people. Just because there are a lot of people making a lot of money out of it does not make it right. It doesn't make it right because you sell it here either. It's certainly nothing that I would be proud of. So if you're thinking to say that this is all right, as far as I'm concerned, no. It's not all right. It's a shameful industry that's killing people.
Can we have another question? Can we have another question now?
David was on TV trying to convince the Czech government that terror is happening in the Czech Republic, and this is why they should buy his product. Just a background.
Thank you. No, we'll have another question. Let's have actually your partner.
I've got a couple of comments that will lead to a question. One of them is what David said about the Jews of Iraq. I saw a very interesting documentary called The Jews of Baghdad several years ago, and it was incredibly eye-opening because, for one thing, it talked about how Israel needed a bigger population at the time after 1948, so Mossad agents were going into Arab countries and provoking conflict between the peoples of Jewish, Muslim, Christian religions, and also because a lot of the Jews of Baghdad had in fact been left-leaning communist supporters, and this was a reason to provoke this conflict. And as a result of that conflict, and as a result of the violence which was then perpetrated on Jews who had been living peaceably for hundreds of years in quarters of Baghdad, they, moved to the sort of new paradise of Israel, where the people who were interviewed felt more culturally connected to the Palestinians than to the other Jews there, who were mainly from Central and Eastern Europe. So she talked, one was a writer from there who talked about, just the simple stuff about the food and...
Your question.
Okay, well, I just wanted to say that the comment. What do you think about the idea of terra nullius? Now, terra nullius, which means empty earth. And that was what the British used as their justification for occupying the land of Australia, of which I'm a citizen, in the year 1788, plonking down their flag because there was no nation. There was no sovereignty. There was no state, but there were people who were actually living there. So I'm wondering if you could both comment on that analogy that I started to draw.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'll have Jackie go first.
First of all, my partner's people are from Essaouira in Morocco, and the story you say about Iraq, we went back to Morocco quite recently, and the story you say about Morocco and what happened to the Jews there is exactly the same as this being told. So this thing about Jews fleeing because of all the persecution that they had in Arab countries is actually not quite as straight as it would appear. Yeah, this thing about empty space. This is an imperialist ploy, a colonial ploy that's repeated and repeated again. The British did it not just in Australia. They did it also in the Caribbean. They went there. There were native people there, and they went, "Oh gosh, there's nobody here. I think we'll colonise it." And if you look at what a lot of the Zionists said when they went to Israel, they said exactly the same. They went, "Wow, there's nothing here. There's just desert. We're going to make it bloom." Forget about all the olive trees. Forget about all of those beautiful cities that were there and had been established there for thousands of years. And what we see now is that fantasy has become embedded in some Jewish minds. And it's not surprising because the propaganda is so strong on it. No, it wasn't empty land. Just like the Caribbean wasn't empty land, just like Australia wasn't empty land. And it's not for anybody to judge what those indigenous people were doing with that land. It was their land. Doesn't matter if they wanted to just play dominoes on it. It's their land to do that, and nobody should have the right to change that.
First, with my American friend, I take it a little bit of an insult that you decide for Moroccan Jews, like my father, you saw, rest in peace, that what he told me, the reasons why he ran away, the Jew decided that it's not true. I disagree. I would stay with believing that what my father told me is true, and I don't think I will ever change my mind. He told me and his family, they said that it started very bad times, and this is what they had to live. They said for hundreds of years our family was very safe in Morocco. This was one of the best places to live. It changed because of the war. The wars started, we understood it, we left everything, and we came to Israel. The fact that they had a shop, one of the biggest shops in Rabat for gold, and they came with nothing, I think shows something. About Iraq, 1st of June 41, thing called Farhud, pogroms in the Jews in Iraq, 179 people butchered, cut to pieces, their organs divided from their body, thousands of other Jews are running away. So you want to tell me that everything in Iraq was propaganda? I think that we have facts prove that it's not true. Generally, I will say just last thing about the past, if I can. Past is filled with ugly things from both sides. I think the problem of the Palestinians in Israel and some out of Israel is that they don't want to face reality. The reality is now that if we want peace, the land should be divided in two, but there has to be a partner. If we talk to the Hamas, the Azadin al-Qassam will say no. If we will speak to the Palestinian Authority, then someone else...
You've now talked twice as long as Jackie.
I apologize. I will sit.
Thank you.
Are you sure?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, please.
Thank you. I have a question on Jackie, which actually goes back to the topic of this debate about BDS. David said that the BDS disproportionately targets, affects Palestinians because Palestinians tend to work more. There are more Palestinians proportionately probably working in Israeli companies in the West Bank than in the Israeli companies in Israel.
Yes.
So my question is, wouldn't it be better from the perspective of BDS to support total boycott? What is your stance on this? Because, yeah, that's my question.
Okay. I mean, what I take from my experience supporting the struggle of the ANC in southern Africa is that you go for a total boycott. Now, not everybody agrees with me, but I think what we should have is a total boycott, absolutely. And there was always, I remember that with Thatcher, Margaret Thatcher. She always said, oh no, you can't have a boycott of South Africa, because if you do that, it's the Africans who will suffer. Well, it's extraordinary. She didn't give a damn about the Africans suffering, but it's just another way of protecting those interests in Africa. And you know, I'm sorry, but I fail to be convinced by the argument that it's Palestinians will suffer, as if they're not suffering now in their low-paid menial jobs, in the way that they're discriminated against, in the fact that they actually can't actually buy land in, what, 93% of Israel, where they can't buy land and can't actually have a free life and don't actually have proper schools and proper equipment to send their kids to. So please, I cannot handle being told by somebody who's an arms dealer and a Zionist that his interest is with the Palestinians.
Yeah. I never said my interest is the Palestinians. I would like to have peace, but first of all, I think about my people. This is my priority. Okay. Let's say a little bit about the BDS. Boycotting Israel is impossible. All of our products, it's just totally impossible. If you will remember the facts that in every computer, in every camera in the world, every equipment in the world, there has to be some Israel agreements. That means you will have to go back to caves. And please don't use the Facebook, ICQ, Microsoft, or anything else that you use, because it's all done and made by Zionists. So if you want to boycott us, I think it's kind of stupid going back to the... What I am surprised at and really wonders is, you see, I'm not talking about these people here, but they see what radical Palestinians are doing. If you don't see, I will tell you a little bit. Okay? Abdullah Azzam has created Al-Qaeda. He's a Palestinian.
David, I'm the moderator. Please sit down. Because you answered the question and now you're changing the subject. Let's have another question. In the back. No, I'm trying to find someone who hasn't asked. Back there. Yes.
Since David has been throwing the phrase truth around quite generously, I just wanted to address a fact here. If you remember President Kennedy being murdered, after acknowledging that there was ingrained forces within the government of even the United States and other parliaments around the world, wait, let me finish. Other governments around the world, and these people, these families, like the Rothschilds, who have a lot of bulwarks in Tel Aviv, right? Yes. Rockefellers, Bechtels, Murdochs controlling the media, construction industry of the world, oil sector,
oil,
and weapons, and like. How do you think they connect to, since you were serving the Israeli Special Forces for so many years, how do you think they connect to the Israeli government, and what kind of interest do they have in creating conflict in that area for so many years? And if you are such a fond of truth, why are you not even passing anywhere close to these facts, but talking about this illusion and this political debate, which is not even relevant? Are you, what I'm trying to understand, are you a poor, manipulated man who has become a murderer, or are you lying and defending the interests of Israeli Special Forces and your government?
I'm just aware of the fact. The fact is that in 48, the land was divided in two. We did not want war. The war was forced on us. It's not an illusion. We're not making it up. You have a very funny laughter. Thank you. Just check this.
Thank you, David. I'll intersect right there. You had 20 seconds. Could you respond to that?
Look, I think, no. I don't need to.
That's okay. You may or you may not disagree. That's okay.
That's okay. You decided. I respect you.
Excuse me, here.
We've already spoken. That lady in the back there on the left.
He did.
Yes.
I have a question for David. You keep talking about the two-state solution and how you want to divide the land on two parts. But your government keeps constructing the settlements, and you said that it's just like a little part of the land, but actually there are like 600,000 people, I think, living in settlements now. So do you genuinely believe that your government is willing is trying to fight for the two-state solution? Because, like, from my point of view, I don't see them trying really hard because of that.
How much time do I have?
Go ahead. You have as much time as Jackie.
Thank you. Yes, we want a two-state solution, but no, there is no partner right now. There's no one we can talk to because the Palestinians are divided into too many groups. This is the fact. You cannot make peace with anyone right now. We wish we could, but we cannot. What was the second question?
Settlements.
What?
Settlements.
About the settlements? Well, the settlements are a problem, but we said when we got out of Gaza, we said, Gaza first. What can't you understand? We said, let's go out of Gaza. Let me finish, please. We said, let's go out of Gaza. If everything would be fine, then we take the settlements out of the other territories. Is it true or not?
It is not true. It's a lie. You never said it.
It's not true?
None of your government ever said it.
Can you please open now any kind of a document that you want and look at Gaza disengagement? Did we take out settlements of Gaza, yes or no?
Yes.
Also, you're saying it is true?
Yes, partly. You said that.
Can you stand up? Can you stand up?
You said that you went out of Gaza as a test, and then if things go well, you will also go out of the West Bank. But this is not true. None of your government officials ever said this. You went out of Gaza specifically to keep and retain the West Bank.
Wrong. The deal is called Gaza first. What do you understand from Gaza first?
Show me the written document or any recorded.
Open the document.
Show me the document. I don't know what the document. Show me the document.
May I please?
We'll continue with Jackie, and you look up. Sit down and.
Thank you.
You know what I find very interesting about what's happening is the avoidance of answering on certain questions, because that's where you know that the ground is so weak. Exactly. And obviously David feels embarrassed about defending the settlements, and quite rightly he should, because how can you actually support not just the settlements, but the fact that they're building even more settlements? How can you then even pretend that this is a government or a country that wants peace? No, this is and we heard David use the words, they want facts on the ground. I promise you that if things go on as they are, which actually you look at a map now and see what's happened, with the amount of settlements they're building, encouraged of course by racist Trump, even though he's got Jewish people in his family, if they keep on doing this, what they'll do in the end is turn around and say, look, we can't move these settlements. How can we move it? We would have to be moving thousands. We've got to look at the facts on the ground. And that's what will happen. The settlement system is indefensible. And it's actually the side of the story about Ahed Tamimi, which the European media are not properly and fully reporting on, because that family have been defending their homeland that they have lived on for centuries, their olive trees, their water, which they can no longer get because the recent Israeli settlement on the hill is now taking all their water. So please, let's actually have some sense and some truth in this debate. This is a horrible, horrible oppression going on, backed by military forces and backed by those who make money out of it.
First thing about the disengagement, if I can. Okay. I would like you to check it I will leave you my mail, and I would like you to tell me
I
what you
want
found.
you to check it, and I want you to give me the document.
Okay, good. So let's exchange mails, and I will send it to you.
No
and
problem.
then the next debate, you can read it to me.
The next debate.
Why not? Why not? If it will be with a nice moderator like we have here.
It has nothing to do with it.
Oh, it's better to be a good moderator. Okay? What is rude? What
That is very rude to Jana. Sorry.
Okay,
What you just said.
No, I thought you were not too fair. I'm sorry.
No.
Which the thing?
What? I will.
So excuse me, just to clarify, so you will provide me the document, a written document by an official, Israeli official, the best prime minister, of course.
Oh, yeah, sure, I'll call the
Okay.
prime minister.
No, you will provide me that document, which says that in 2005, when Ariel Sharon disengaged from Gaza, it was just as a test for the time being. Then we will see if things go well and the Palestinians behave, we will give up the West Bank and give it to the Palestinians. So the
No,
Palestinians.
that's not what I said.
This is what you said.
I said Gaza first.
Gaza
Meaning first Gaza, then settling the settlements in the West Bank.
No,
not getting out of all of them.
Excuse me, you said Gaza first, and then we will see how it goes. If it goes well, we will give them the West Bank. This is what you said.
So,
okay, hold on. I would like David to say what he will get to you in an email as a source.
A document,
in a document, an official document.
Okay.
An official document.
Okay, let him talk,
I
please.
don't think, first of all, I don't represent the state. I don't represent here anyone but myself.
Then why do you
I'm
say
not sure that I can get you official documents. Can you get me the official documents of what the Hamas is doing?
I didn't say anything.
So, what I would like to bring for the next, or send to you, is the disengagement was called Gaza First. The plan was first to solve the problem in Gaza, then to continue and solve the problem in the West Bank.
How?
Thank you. Thank you. That's an.
Yeah, but
we'll stop it right there.
The second stage to solve the West Bank. How?
Taking out some of the settlements, not all of them.
How many? And by which time? What's the deadline?
I know that we have 4 major cities that had to stay there. One of them is Ma'ale Adumim and so on.
All around Jerusalem. That means annexation of all Jerusalem.
We wanted to annex some parts. Why not?
Say, talk.
Yes.
Talk straight.
Sure.
Don't say,
I'm not speaking this. It's true.
And what's
some
the
of it is ours.
What's the deadline?
Ours?
Yes. In 1929,
What's the
when you
deadline?
made the pogroms, you butchered Jews, and many of the settlements are resettlements, meaning coming back to places where Jews were before 29, before they were butchered and kicked out.
Thank you, David.
This is a fact, my friend. Thank you.
Let's
Oh my
have you.
God, it's true.
Yeah.
David speaks.
You get up, please.
Yes. David speaks of 1948 Arab aggression by 5 Arab armies attacking the newly established Israeli state. What is his position of the fact that Jewish militia already put into place a plan of ethnic cleansing before the creation of the state, which was called Dalet? What is your position on it? Ethnic cleansing plan, which was, I think it started from December 1947, which is in fact act of aggression against the Arab populace of Palestine. What is your position on this?
Ethnic cleansing never happened in Israel.
I bring you historical book from
Bring me? Okay.
He is a Jew, well known. He is a university in London. He is a university historian.
Okay. Let me say something as a moderator. Let me say something as a moderator. Who wants to learn about that side of the history can read Ilan Pappes, The Ethnic Cleansing of Palestine. Who wants to read something from the other view can read. Do you have a source?
Not right now. If I can say something, please. No, I'm not a political guy. I came
No,
to
this is a historical book which is researched with all the sources from the Israeli government.
Very easy. Open Wikipedia, look at the numbers. Numbers. 13,000 Palestinians killed in the War of Independence.
Excuse me. Excuse me. You rely on Wikipedia.
Not only.
You rely on Wikipedia for facts to solve a problem, to solve a political problem which has been going on for 100 years.
A book written by someone?
Thank you. I haven't given you the word.
You're joking.
David.
Why not?
I rely on scholars. on academic scholars who spend tens and tens of years of their lives.
I'm taking back the word. Thank you.
Wikipedia,
Thank you.
Okay, sir. How many Palestinians
David,
were killed
David.
in 48? Answer me.
David.
Answer me.
I don't know.
The Palestinian Authority made a research, and they wrote 13,000. I'm using their number. Do you believe the Palestinians or not? Call them liars.
Were expelled from their homes.
I asked how many were killed.
Listen, we don't want to get back to the former kind of debate. Let's keep it civilized. We will get more out of it.
How many Palestinians
David, please
were
sit
killed?
down.
Answer me.
Thank you.
Answer. Yes, sure. Answer.
We just have a short
You
answer
don't
to
know?
that question.
Oh, so you're just throwing out numbers.
David.
So you don't know nothing.
David.
What are you doing here?
One short answer to his question.
I don't know. I don't know the answer to that, but I would like to ask him. You said that during 100 years of the conflict, 26,000 Israelis were killed.
No. I said 26,000 Palestinians were killed in 100 years.
Yes, in 100 years.
This is
how
ethnic
many,
cleansing.
okay, in the same 100 years, how many Israelis at the hands of the Palestinians died? Excuse me, and don't give me the Holocaust. We're talking about just the Palestinian perpetrators.
More than 10,000.
10.
10? Okay, I agree.
Excuse me? More than 10,000?
10%.
What? 10%
No.
of what?
Okay, not 10.
More than 10,000. If I'm
Okay,
not
let's
mistaken, the
have
number
a
is
different question.
11,500.
Again,
This is
I
more.
want to see the
Listen, I will cut you short here
Check it
because
along.
you've had a lot of talking
Check it
space.
along.
We'll have one question here.
Yes, please. I just want to ask Jacob because, well, David talks about the great democracy of Israel. Would you tell the here the people about Mordecai Vanunu? I think you know about him.
Yes.
Mordecai and how the Israeli state treats him. Would you comment on that, please?
Well,
Mordecai Vanunu.
Mordecai Vanunu. I mean,
how they treat him.
I mean, Israel has nuclear weapons. And again, it's something that they have illegally. I'm glad you know.
You know,
Yes,
I'm
of
happy you
course.
know this. I don't know, but it's okay. You know.
Right. Israel has nuclear weapons, and it has that against international law. So Vanunu was a whistleblower, we would call it in our terms, and he told people what was happening because, you know, this is an amazing image, isn't it, of Israel as these nice people who they just want peace, and all they're doing is making mobile phones and things so that our computers work well and medicines. And actually what they're doing, and of course, because what's really important for Israel is that they remain positioned as permanent potential victims of aggression. It's very important that they do it. And because that is so important, certainly officially, they would never ever accept that they have nuclear arms. So actually, they could nuke anybody they want.
Why we don't do that?
Well,
I'll give you the word in a moment.
This was a question. Why we don't do that to Palestinians?
But
We
let
can
her
finish
speak,
this
let her speak
in
first.
2 minutes.
Let her finish first, and then you can ask her a question.
now Vanunu, as far as I'm concerned, did a service to the world. Because he said what the truth was, what was actually happening. And what's happened to him is that they've basically locked him up and thrown away the key. They've locked him up and thrown away the key for informing people that Israel is yet again breaking international law and not quite the victims that they put themselves out to be.
May I?
Yes.
Let's stop being hypocrite if you want. Who are we facing? What did the Hamas do to the Palestinian Authority people when they... Let me speak, please. What did the Hamas do to the Palestinian Authority soldiers and police when they wanted to take over Gaza? This is who we are facing. You're asking why do we have weapons? You created us, you created this situation. Every time it got worse and worse, and we started getting better and better, and to create the weapons. Thank you for this. One more thing about the nuclear weapon. I asked a very good question, and I think you will not find the answer. Because if we really wanted to finish this, we can finish it in 2 minutes. We see you as people. We are also angry. We are human too. We are angry when things happen, when bombs blow, when children are being slaughtered. Most of the attacks of Palestinians are on civilians. Most of the, is that true? No, you're taking sides, no?
Well,
is that true? Check the fact.
To take side of the oppressed people.
I'm not going to be hypocrite. We're not wonderful people. We're not saints. We do what we have to do. You have created a situation. We did not want the first war. You gave it. No, we did not. My friend, we did not want it.
Thank you.
You can say you did as much as you want. It's not
true.
Thank
you. You had the same speaking track.
Thank you.
In the back there.
David keeps repeating this, we didn't want war, the question of 1948 and so on. The only answer for that is what our friend here read, Ben-Gurion, what Ben-Gurion said.
Yeah.
We didn't have to agree with why. You came from outside, that God promised you that land. He was not a real estate dealer, that he gave you this land 3,000 years ago. So what? 3,000 years ago, 2,000 years ago, you've been there. You don't have any proof that you've been there. You've been in Yemen. The news story is that you've been in Yemen. Torah came from Yemen, and it's not talking about Palestine. Ben-Gurion said it very clearly. In 48, why should we agree to divide our land with strangers who came from Europe? What Nazis did to you is painful, it's hateful, but it's not our problem, it's not our fault. Why should we pay for it? Why should we pay for it? They did it, not us. Thank you.
Yeah, because you're talking about the disaster that was the Balfour Agreement, which Britain has responsibility for. Interestingly, actually, I think there were 2 Jewish people in the cabinet at that time, and they were both very against the Balfour. They were both very against the Balfour Agreement. Balfour, in fact, was an anti-Semite. I mean, let's be clear about what the founding of Israel was about. He was an anti-Semite, and he hated Arabs, and that's what he thought he was getting. What he thought he was actually getting another two for the price of one. He was going to put leverage in the middle of Arab lands by planting Jews within Palestine. And it was a trick that they had done before the British. This is exactly what they did in Northern Ireland. It's a carbon copy. In fact, there's a quote. There's an actual quote which actually says, what we're going to do is we're going to make the Protestants of the Middle East. And that's what they managed to do. So the Balfour Agreement is nothing to be proud of, because, as you said, you know, Palestinians didn't do the Nazi Holocaust, and yet, as European people, they have been asked to pay the cost of what the Nazis did to the Jews. Now, you know, you might also want to ask, how come the Romanis haven't been given somewhere they can be safe, seeing as they are far and away more oppressed than any Jews in Europe at the moment? You might. There's also Kurds. There's many people who actually don't have a land. But the Balfour Agreement is nothing to be. The Balfour Agreement was formed in racism. It's the bastard child of racism, and it formed a racist society.
First, you speak about any connection between us and the land of Israel, yes? You say that we are not connected. I have a question for you. Who killed Jesus? Who killed Jesus? Who killed Jesus? Hi, who could have saved him and did not? What? This is a legitimate question. Who could have saved him? Who told on him? What was Jesus' religion? Take your time, answer me. What was Jesus' religion before he changed? Against who did he come out? This is in your Quran, by the way. which I respect a lot. What was the religion of Jesus, my friend?
I agree that
Before
he came
this.
from a Jewish community.
Thank you, we agree. Another question that I have. What did the Palestinians do to save him from being killed? The Muslim Palestinians. What did they do? Or any Palestinians? The Arabs?
What Muslim?
Of course, they were not there. Thank you.
What Muslim?
What are you talking
Exactly.
about?
This is our connection to the land. Thank you for what Muslims? Islam did not even exist. Thank you.
I'll have two last questions because
I agree.
thank you. We have to come to an end, and I have two last questions that I will allow, and then we can maybe continue in the pub or so. Let's have Herbert. You've tried for a long time.
I would like to ask a very different question, because we have been talking about the past and about the present. I would like to talk about the future.
That's it.
Let's imagine there is a peace agreement. There's peace. Then for both speakers, I have the same question. And what would this look like? Looking at the borders of the state, looking at who lives where, and basically that is it. What is your idea of what the situation would be like when there's peace?
Okay.
That's
I
the
really
question.
like this question, and I would like to have it as the last question, because we are way over time, and I please ask for forgiveness to those who still had burning questions, but maybe you can ask in the discussion afterwards on the hall. So, Jackie, please.
Yeah, I mean, I did say before that, you know, I actually don't think it's for me to formulate a piece for the area. But if you're asking my opinion about what vision I would espouse, that I would hope for, it's the only solution that I think is workable, which is a just solution. It's a just solution of a country that recognises everybody's human rights, that is truly democratic, not an apartheid form of democracy, and where there is one state which is for its people and not separating people by ethnicity or religion.
But what about the refugees? What about the...
They have to have return. You have to allow... I mean, actually, the truth is, there will probably be many Palestinians whose lives have gone on and they wouldn't choose to return. That might well happen, but you have to give people the right of return. And you probably, just like the Jews had in Europe, you know, you probably have to think perhaps, if there has to be adjustments made, of giving Palestinians some financial compensation for the loss of land and you know, the loss of actual material prosperity which they suffered. But you know, that's massive. You're talking about something huge.
Yeah, but I want to have a concrete vision. What is the West
I
Bank?
just told
You might not get it from Jackie, though.
Yeah, I'm not.
Thank you. David, please.
Okay. Few things need to be taken into consideration. We cannot accept the right of return. It will change demographically the state of Israel. Difficult. It will be a majority of Muslims. And to tell you the truth, I am not sure that if there will be a majority of Muslims, will not happen that they will want to murder us. Okay?
We have to stay in Prague.
We would like what?
We have to stay in Prague.
What?
We have to stay in Prague forever.
What is wrong in Prague? It's a wonderful life. I live here too. I like it. Okay, that's the first thing. About Judah and Shomron. Yes, Judah. A very nice name. Probably has nothing to do with Jews, but never mind. So, Judah and Shomron, it's a very delicate problem because it's too close and it's exactly in the middle. Security-wise, if we will give it up, very easy for army. Now I'm trying to explain to you security. This I understand. It is very easy for an army, if they are in Judah and Shomron, all of it, to cut Israel in two, and then forces cannot go from one side to the other side to help it. It's a disaster. We don't have too many soldiers, not enough. If there are any Arab countries will attack us, it's too difficult. We must be able to go from one side to the other. Plus, if we will give up the heights of the Shomron, then our airport is finished. So there has to be a settlement dividing it fairly with the help of Jordan. We have approved that we can do peace. We have done peace with Jordan, we have done peace with Egypt. I think they were brave. Both these countries were brave. They said okay to peace. You can see the results. I'm not saying that in Jordan they all love us, but we respect each other, we can communicate. As far as my ideal peace is like Israel now, with some more parts for us. Gaza should be, as the way it is now, a state. Some parts of, I believe that in Judah and Shimon, I personally believe that it is, my personal view is, it is better if it would be under the Jordanian ruling. If you think a Palestinian state should be there with East Jerusalem as its capital, yeah, why not? If you are sure that it will be used for life, for prosperity, and not for war. Because this is what scares us. But you also have, you must have unity in Palestine. You must take all the groups, put them together and say...
You could talk about a situation, there is peace, there's no more...
This is the way I see it. Like we live with the Arab Israelis. We have our different views, we don't agree on anything, but we all live together. Haifa is an ideal place. There's discrimination also to me. There's discrimination to Ethiopians. In the post office, they discriminate European Jews. Why? Because it's controlled by Moroccan Jews. Many of them, some my family, some other families, and they don't let European Jews come.
Thank you.
Sorry, I apologize.
David,
thank you.
We've ended. Thanks a lot for coming, and I'm passing back the word to Jana.
Can we let the Moroccan guy say something, please?
Afterwards.
I just want to invite everyone for tomorrow. Jigi's going to have a performance in Klinika. Jigi, can you introduce just...
Yeah, it's a play that is...
Just a minute.
Oh, I would have had you.
It's a play about what's happened to me and the situation with anti-Semitism, false allegations in the UK, and it's been going around not just the UK but in Europe as well, and you know it's supposed to be very enjoyable and very thought-provoking.
And it was only effect in Berlin.